Chapter 561 Dreams Shattered in Blue Sky City. As Su Zimo charged toward him, the God Emperor snorted coldly and disappeared into the void. Su Zimo looked over at Lan Kuer and let out a small sigh. "I didn't expect this either," he said, shaking his head with a guilty tone. "How am I supposed to face you after this?" Lan Kuer looked at Su Zimo, her eyes filled with pain. "It was the God Emperor who killed your father, not me. But don't worry, I'll get revenge for you one day," Su Zimo said. "You murdered my family." Lan Kuer crouched on the ground, holding her head as she cried. "They tried to kill me," Su Zimo replied. "I want to be alone for a while." Lan Kuer gently shook her head and whispered, "I'm sorry that it had to come to this. I'll always be here for you." Su Zimo nodded. Then he turned and walked toward the Life-Death Demon Execution Formation. The destruction of the Lan clan was never what he wanted. But in the end, they had chosen to stand against him. Once they declared war, Su Zimo couldn't stay indifferent. People hope for happy endings, but the truth is, life is often full of sorrow. He would respect Lan Kuer's choice. No matter what happens, Su Zimo wouldn't regret what he had done. In front of the Life-Death Demon Execution Formation, Su Zimo held Shadow Tyrant tightly. Endless blade intent poured from its edge. With a loud boom, all that blade energy came together and slashed down with full force. The protective barrier around the formation shattered. 10 golden chains broke apart instantly. Inside the array, Paimon roared. His demonic energy surged like a sea of hellfire. Paimon slowly raised his hands, grabbed the golden chains on his arms, and yanked hard. With 2 loud cracks, the chains snapped. Without the array's power, they were now fragile. One after another, all the chains on Paimon's body broke apart. He stepped out of the formation, his demonic energy swallowing half the sky. He looked like a true demon lord returning to the world, each step tearing open cracks in space. As Paimon emerged, the sky behind him twisted into a giant, terrifying demonic face. Su Zimo looked at the trapped Lan clan ancestors and said to Paimon, "They're yours." Paimon nodded. He raised his right hand, and a sphere of demonic energy formed between his fingers. In an instant, the sphere expanded dozens of times and swallowed all 10 Lan clan members, including Lan Jilin. Just as they were consumed, the only woman among them, Invincible Jiang, began to fade. Suddenly, a shadow emerged from her body, shining across heaven and earth, turning into a stream of light that tried to escape with her from Paimon's domain. "An emperor's soul?" Paimon muttered. "If you dare run, I'll destroy your invincible domain right now," Su Zimo's voice echoed from behind. The stream of light hesitated for a moment, then slowly dispersed. Invincible Jiang reappeared in midair. She looked coldly at Su Zimo and said, "This is all on me. It has nothing to do with my sect. Seems like you and the Invincible Emperor are pretty close. He actually gave you part of his Emperor's soul to protect you," Su Zimo said with a light laugh. "The Emperor's soul is a piece of an Emperor's true spirit. To an Emperor, that's even more important than their personal artifacts. Unless someone is extremely important, an Emperor would never give away part of their soul." "What do you want?" Invincible Jiang asked. "How about this, you help me find someone, and I'll consider sparing your invincible domain," Su Zimo said. "Besides this incident, your sect hasn't really had any conflict with the demon race. Who do you want me to find?" Invincible Jiang was silent for a moment, then asked, "The current holy son of the Dao race, Dao Tianyun, and the whereabouts of the Dao race itself," Su Zimo replied. Earlier, he looked into the fate of the reincarnated Lord of Samsara and found he had been reborn as the Dao race leader's son. Some debts from past lives aren't forgotten. They're just waiting for the right time to be paid back. Whether it's Bailey Shao or the Lord of Samsara, Su Zimo wouldn't let any of them go. "All right." Invincible Jiang thought for a bit and finally nodded. Just moments ago, she had sensed someone in the void locking onto her with intense killing intent. If she had refused, she might have been killed on the spot. "One more thing," Su Zimo added. "Tell your sect to spread a message. Say the entire Lan clan were demons. Say your invincible domain joined forces with Beyond Heaven Sword Mountain to destroy them. But claim that the two ancestors of Beyond Heaven Sword Mountain died heroically in the fight, sacrificing themselves for the greater good. When Su Zimo finished speaking, the Lan clan elders all burst into angry screams. You're the real demon. May you all die horribly, they shouted. Ancestors, we failed you. I, Lan Jalin, have brought shame to the Lan clan, he cried. Seeing their reaction, Invincible Jiang couldn't help feeling a moment of sorrow. This was more than killing the body, it was destroying the legacy of a clan. Not only was the Lan clan wiped out, but their reputation from thousands of years would be completely ruined. Branded as demons, their name would carry that stain forever unless someone cleared it one day. You don't need to feel so bad. I'm just returning what the Lan clan once did to us, Su Zimo said calmly. What's wrong with being a demon? You're the ones who gave us that label. The demons never even did anything to this continent. Paimon pressed his hands together. The dark sphere covered the remaining Lan clan members completely. Then he shrank the sphere down and swallowed it whole. This is my domain of despair, Paimon said flatly. Inside it, they will suffer endlessly in despair until they finally die in agony. I'll do what you asked, Invincible Jiang said helplessly, nodding. Su Zimo waved her off without another word. Invincible Jiang gave him one final deep look, then turned and left into the sky. Master, here is the Chaos Stone. Paimon brought the crystal over right away and placed it in front of Su Zimo. Su Zimo looked at the crystal in his hand. It was a murky gray and impossible to see inside. He asked, Can it still be used now? I'm afraid not, Paimon said with regret. The demon sealing lock only appears once every 1,000 years, on the day the world returns to its origin. That time has already passed. To use it again, we'll have to wait another 1,000 years. Chapter 562, All living beings are like grass. It's fine. I can feel it, the time until destiny fully forms is getting shorter. I probably won't have to wait long before I go to the outer heavens. Then I can head straight for the primordial demon cave, Su Zimo said with a light smile, gazing toward the distant horizon. Although we can't break the demon sealing lock yet, we can try to find the void spirit monkey first. If we remove the outer seal, we might be able to connect with the primordial demon cave. Understood. Master, are we heading to the Void Valley next? Paimon asked. We'll leave once we finish cleaning up things here with the Lan clan, Su Zimo replied with a nod. With all 7 Lan clan ancestors devoured by Paimon, their upper ranks were basically wiped out. Now, the only survivors were a few servants and younger members with weak cultivation. What should we do with these people? The God Emperor asked. I won't ask. I won't interfere. Handle it yourself, Su Zimo replied calmly. I understand. The God Emperor nodded slowly after thinking it over. After dealing with the ancestors, Su Zimo noticed Lan Kuer had vanished. He flew down to the Lan estate. Some of the Lan clan were hiding, while others fell to their knees, trembling when they saw him, not even daring to look up. The path to power is always stained with blood. Anyone who becomes strong walks over mountains of corpses. I'm sorry. I truly didn't want to destroy your Lan clan, Su Zimo said quietly. It's a shame your family held onto your beliefs for tens of thousands of years. Demon slaying was your mission, your reason to exist. Su Zimo walked into the inner courtyard of the Lan estate again. The demon-slaying trees that once lined the path had withered, hanging lifeless by the roadside. The courtyard was deserted. No trace of the Lan clan's younger generation. Inside, Lan Kuer's maid Little Yun was nervously waiting. Mr. Su, she greeted nervously. Where's Kuer? Su Zimo asked. My lady told me to give this to you, Little Yun said, handing him a silk handkerchief. It was made of fine silkworm silk and had an embroidered image on it. The picture showed the day Su Zimo and Lan Kuer first met, Kuer holding a sword to his neck in a narrow alley. Su Zimo gave a soft chuckle and flipped the handkerchief over. On the back, several words were written. The world has no clear lines. Today we part. The mortal dust palace, the dream of yesterday, ends in Blue Sky City. Su Zimo quietly put the handkerchief away, closed his eyes, and stayed silent for a while. Then he asked, "She went to the mortal dust palace?" "I don't know," little Yoon said fearfully. "Miss just said not to come looking for her. If she doesn't want me to find her, why tell me where she went?" Su Zimo smiled faintly. "She just doesn't know how to face me right now. Forget it. I'll let her calm down. I won't go to the mortal dust palace for now." "Then, may I go?" little Yoon asked cautiously. "You're her maid. I won't trouble you," Su Zimo said with a nod. As little Yoon left, Su Zimo sat alone on the inner courtyard's tower. He poured a few cups of wine and leaned back in the chair. The Lan clan was gone. Blue Sky City was in ruins. The remaining residents had started leaving their homes. Su Zimo didn't destroy the city himself. He fell into a deep sleep, as if the outside world had nothing to do with him. No one dared disturb him. When he awoke, the sky was already turning dark. Paimon and the God Emperor were speaking in the pavilion below. When they saw Su Zimo coming down, both stood up. "Everything's been handled," the God Emperor said. "We'll go to the Void Valley tomorrow," Su Zimo replied. They both nodded. As one of the 10 forbidden grounds, the Void Valley was a strange place. What made it strange was that reaching it relied entirely on luck. With good luck, even an average cultivator could survive inside. With bad luck, even a Grand Emperor might die. The most dangerous thing inside the Void Valley was the void turbulence. First, we have to understand the rules of this universe. There are 9 grand deaths. The 10th transforms into 1, and 1 represents perfection. In other words, the world we live in is never completely sealed. There's always a sliver of hope. At the same time, because the Grand Tao is incomplete, nothing in this world can be perfect. Everything has 2 sides. Even the primordial heartlands are not flawless. Legend says that during the formation of this continent, 1 region remained incomplete. That space is chaotic with unstable currents. If a being enters and avoids those currents, they might survive. But if caught in the void turbulence, they might be instantly torn to pieces. Even with luck, they could be sucked into another space. What lies beyond that space, no one knows. Almost no one has ever come back. It's said that the vast emperor once emerged from that space using incredible power, but after returning, he said nothing and simply ascended to the outer heavens. Not everything in the Void Valley is dangerous, though. There grows a type of tree called the Void Tree. It's said that wood from the Void Tree, called Void Wood, can be used to travel between spaces, even to comprehend the true meaning of void. Void Wood has many uses and is highly sought after. Because of this, many people risk entering the Void Valley to collect it. The next morning, Su Zimo and his 2 companions left Blue Sky City, heading for the Void Valley. It lies at the border between the Skiluan region and the Nine Lands region. According to the sword immortal Jiang Yun, the Void Spirit monkeys live in the Void Valley. They aren't afraid of the void turbulence. They are rare and few people have ever seen them. Since the God Emperor wanted to return to his homeland, his powers had just been restored and he had many things to do. Su Zimo didn't stop him. So he and Paimon went together to the Void Valley. The morning sun shone on Blue Sky City's walls as it always did. But the city was now abandoned. Su Zimo summoned the Dark Sky Tiger and slowly made his way toward the Void Valley. 1 man, 1 tiger, curved blade, an empty city. All living beings are like grass and trees. Only you are my green mountain, Su Zimo sighed softly. Meanwhile, in the eastern continent, at the location of the supreme primal sacred ground, the appearance of a young man completely disrupted the peace of this powerful place. An empire of 2 emperors, at the heart of the eastern continent. Chapter 563 Chaos at Supreme Primal Sacred Ground. At the heart of the supreme primal sacred ground, Jiang Macho stood tall in black robes, facing the wind in the sky. The power of the Empyrean Meridian realm surged around him. Below him, 3 elders of the supreme primal sacred ground lay on the ground, defeated. "Bring out Fu Tianming," Jiang Macho said calmly. "Who are you? How dare you trespass in the supreme primal sacred ground? An elder below shouted. I'm only here for revenge. This has nothing to do with anyone else. Jiang Macho replied plainly. Just then, a woman came running over in a panic. She wore purple robes, her long hair tied back with a blue ribbon. She looked at Jiang Macho, full of mixed emotions, and softly called, Macho! Sister! Jiang Macho looked at Jiang Lily, his expression calm. What are you doing here? Leave now. Someone has already reported this to the Sacred Lord. Jiang Lily said anxiously. Are you telling me to leave because you care? Or because you're afraid I'll kill Fu Tianming? Jiang Macho said coldly. You chose to be with the man who killed our father. I came here today for revenge. You're the one who told me before only strength matters in this world. Everything else is worthless. Well, I'm here to see just how worthless everything you hoped for really is. Who dares defy the supreme primal sacred ground? A voice roared from the distance. A powerful aura gathered in the sky. Accompanied by the three great elders, the current sacred lord Fu Juelei and his son Fu Tianming flew toward them. Young Master Fu, do you still remember me? Jiang Macho looked at Fu Tianming and asked with a trace of anger. Who are you? Fu Tianming asked, confused. You really are forgetful. Do you not remember that small village at the foot of Mount Supreme Primal? Over 10 years ago. Jiang Macho said coldly. At his words, Fu Tianming glanced toward Jiang Lily. Normally, he wouldn't remember such a thing, but Jiang Lily was from that village, so he had some impression. He's my younger brother, Jiang Lily finally said after a moment of silence. I don't care what happened in the past. Just answer me this. Will you surrender, or will I have to take you down? Fu Juelei asked coldly. As he spoke, the aura of the God Meridian realm erupted from him. All 8 of his Meridian gates opened, and a powerful storm of spirit force raged around him. Just you. Jiang Macho laughed lightly and shook his head. At that moment, he activated his third battle body, the Scarlet Flame Imperial Physique. A massive wave of flames burst forth into the sky. In the blink of an eye, the roaring fire dyed half the sky red. One of the 100 battle physiques, Fu Juelei muttered in shock. Jiang Macho, surrounded by the blazing sun-like flames, charged straight at Fu Tianming. Minger, fall back, Fu Juelei shouted. He slapped his palm forward and engaged Jiang Macho in a fierce battle. The fight was so intense that even the elders nearby didn't dare step in. The primordial flames burned wildly in the sky. The fire of the Scarlet Flame Imperial Physique was strange. It couldn't be extinguished easily and seemed to treat everything as fuel. Even Fu Juelei's supreme primal spirit force couldn't avoid it, which restricted his movements in the fight. Fortunately, Jiang Macho was still only in the Empyrean Meridian realm, not yet at the God Meridian level. Otherwise, the sect would have had to call on their old ancestor. Even so, Fu Juelei's supreme primal spirit force still had the upper hand and was pressing Jiang Macho back. As Jiang Macho fought while retreating, it was clear he was losing. Fu Juelei formed a white spirit blade from his energy and slashed down at Jiang Macho with overwhelming power. As the blade was about to strike, Jiang Macho didn't dodge at all. He stood still. No! His target is Minger, Fu Juelei shouted in alarm, but it was too late. The flames around Jiang Macho erupted, engulfing half the sky. In a flash, he appeared in front of Fu Tianming and grabbed him by the neck. Fu Tianming had some cultivation and tried to escape, but the flames of the Scarlet Flame Imperial Physique had already surrounded him. He didn't dare touch the flames and could only watch in fear as he was grabbed. Minger! Fu Juelei roared from behind. He slashed his spirit blade down toward Jiang Macho's back. No! Don't kill me! Fu Tianming shouted, staring into Jiang Macho's cold, killing eyes just inches away. I'll give you anything you want. Give me your death, Jiang Macho said with a light smile. He released Fu Tianming, letting him fall from the sky. An elder rushed forward to catch him, but suddenly flames burst out from Fu Tianming's body. In seconds, his body was completely engulfed in fire. His screams of pain rang, as he was slowly reduced to ashes. All that remained in the sky was Fu Juelei's furious roars, and the sound of his spirit blade stabbing into Jiang Macho's back. Holding the blade, Fu Juelei slashed wildly in rage. Jiang Macho turned his head slightly, gave a faint smile and said, "Sacred Lord Fu, you still can't kill me, until we meet again." His face pale, he tore open the space in front of him and vanished. Fu Juelei tried to chase him, but a wall of fire ignited the sky, blocking his path. Watching Jiang Macho disappear, Jiang Lili stood below, stunned. She whispered, "Little brother." The afternoon sun filtered through the thick canopy, casting scattered light across the forest. Jiang Macho appeared in a corner of the woods, bleeding heavily, leaning against a tree after tearing through space. As he tried to recover and heal, footsteps sounded nearby. He quickly turned his head and saw a young man in purple robes walking toward him. The man was quite handsome, but what stood out most were his eyebrows, pure white like snow, thick and striking. "Who are you?" Jiang Macho stood up quickly, wary. "Let me introduce myself. I'm the current holy son of the supreme primal sacred ground. You can call me by my Tao title, Primordius," the young man said with a smile. "Relax. I won't attack someone while they're down. I just wanted to see who caused such a mess in our lineage." Despite the young man's friendly tone, Jiang Macho remained alert. Chapter 564, Sniping the Demon Sovereign. "Don't worry. Although I'm the holy son of the supreme primal sacred ground, my current achievements have nothing to do with them. That place was just a stepping stone," Primordius said with a shake of his head and a smile. "If there's nothing else, you can leave," Jiang Macho said calmly. "I really like your battle physique," Primordius said with a smile. "Then try taking it." Jiang Macho snorted coldly as flames rose around him. "You misunderstand. The battle physique is great, but it's not suitable for me," Primordius replied with a smile. As soon as he finished speaking, the sky suddenly darkened. A dark gray mist spread across the sky. In that moment, ripples of the 8 trigrams appeared around him, slowly spreading outward. The once noisy forest fell silent instantly. It was as if the air, time, and space had all come to a stop. Everything around was a misty gray, as if returning to a time more ancient than ancient itself. The 4th battle physique. The Primordius Immortal Physique. Primordius spoke calmly. "What is more primal than chaos is Primordius. Primordius is the beginning of existence, the nameless state of being, the first arising of the one before it took form. Primordius is the origin of the Tao. Primordius means the first appearance of true essence." "You?" Jiang Macho fell silent for a moment as he looked at the scene. "I am Primordius, and Primordius is me," Primordius said with a smile. "When you've healed, I will defeat you in front of the whole world." "I'll be waiting," Jiang Macho replied calmly. Primordius then waved his hands, and the gray world faded away. As the world returned to normal, his figure disappeared without a trace. "This world really is huge." Jiang Macho looked up at the sky, laughed softly and sighed. He then sat down in the forest to recover from his injuries. This trip to the supreme primal sacred ground had been far more dangerous than expected, especially with Primordius's appearance. Even though he had the 3rd battle physique and had learned many divine techniques from his master, he was still no match for someone at the God Meridian realm. Jiang Macho decided to return to the Infinite Immortal Mountain and train until he reached the God Meridian realm before facing Heaven's will. 7 days later, his injuries were fully healed. Only then did he rise into the air and head toward the Infinite Immortal Mountain. About half a month later, using the token his master gave him, he navigated the endless mist and returned to the Infinite Immortal Mountain. The Lord of Nihility was still there, living in a small wooden hut on the mountain, working at sunrise and resting at sunset. When Jiang Macho returned, the old man was watering his herbs. Jiang Macho waited silently until the watering was done before softly greeting, "Master, you've grown a lot on this trip?" Lord of Nihility looked at Jiang Macho and smiled. "Master, I've avenged my great grudge, Jiang Macho said. The mission you wanted me to complete, I can now do it without hesitation. When I first took you as a disciple, I did have selfish reasons, the old man said warmly. I know. In this world, who can really say what's right and wrong? Jiang Macho smiled. Without you, I wouldn't have made it this far. I have only one request, for myself and for all living beings, Lord of Nihility said seriously. When the day of destiny comes, I want you to snipe the demon sovereign. Snipe the demon sovereign? Jiang Macho asked in confusion. It doesn't matter who becomes the final emperor. The only goal is to kill the demon sovereign. Don't let him carry this era's heaven's will, Lord of Nihility said. Don't worry, you won't be alone. You're just one part of the sniping plan. We've been preparing for a long time. I understand, Jiang Macho said seriously after a moment of silence. Good. That means you're worthy of the third battle physique, Lord of Nihility said with satisfaction. I'll help you break into the God Meridian realm. We'll meet again on the day of heaven's will. On the 7th day of his journey to the Void Valley, the giant Dark Sky Tiger was running at full speed. People who saw the tiger along the way all kept their distance, afraid to get too close. Because of that, Su Zimo's journey was uneventful. On this particular sunny day, Su Zimo had already entered the territory of the Imperial Throne's sacred ground, leaving behind the domain ruled by the vast immortal sacred ground. As the strongest power in the Skiluan region, the Imperial Throne sacred ground had lived through the era of 3 grand emperors in one lineage. It was a true giant. From the Prime Heaven Emperor to the North Emperor and then the Thunder Emperor, this sect had ruled most of the Skiluan region's history. That day, as the Dark Sky Tiger walked forward, a loud explosion suddenly came from underground. The entire crust began to shift. The ground collapsed as if a prehistoric beast were awakening beneath it. The earth shook violently. The quake was so wide and intense that in just a moment, a whole section of land sank. The Dark Sky Tiger didn't even have time to run. It fell down along with it. The explosions under the earth grew louder and could be heard from dozens of kilometers away. Not long after the explosions started, several figures came flying in from the distance. The nearest city was called Heaven Beast City. Its lord was a transformed beast of incredible power. He had once saved a grand elder of the Imperial Throne sacred ground and was rewarded with the role of city lord. In this city of 10,000 beasts, humans and monsters lived peacefully together. They didn't interfere with each other and even formed friendships. Among the approaching figures, the fastest was a sky eagle. This eagle was dozens of meters long, with rainbow-colored wings and gloomy brown eyes. Its sharp cry pierced the sky, and its wings stirred up a storm as it flew like a streak of light to the earthquake site. Then came another sharp and harsh cry as the sky eagle's physique glowed with spiritual energy. Its physique began to transform, and in the blink of an eye, it became a man in green robes. His large robe was embroidered with images of various monsters. The green robe covered his whole physique. He stood silently, gazing at the direction of the quake, deep in thought. The earthquake lasted unusually long, almost the time it takes for several sticks of incense to burn. Then came a loud rumbling sound. A blood-red palace slowly rose from underground. Besides the green-robed man, many wandering cultivators had also gathered nearby. As the blood-red palace appeared, a chime-like voice rang out, "I am Bai Chongfeng. In 7 days, my legacy will open, waiting for those destined." Chapter 565 Slaughter God. Bai Chongfeng, who is that? Some of the rogue cultivators asked in confusion. The name sounds familiar. Someone thought for a moment and said, Slaughter God Bai Chongfeng. Could it be him? Slaughter God Bai Chongfeng, the city lord of Myriad Demon City, who was the sky eagle transformed into a man in green robes, frowned slightly. That voice just now said this is the place where the slaughter god Bai Chongfeng left his legacy? Some rogue cultivators exclaimed in excitement. If someone gets this legacy, wouldn't they become the new slaughter god? While some were thrilled, others stayed cautious. If it's really the legacy of the slaughter god, it probably won't be easy inside. With his personality, those who enter might not survive. If no one is worthy, he might kill everyone. Who cares? Our lives as rogue cultivators are already fragile. Having this chance is good enough, we have to go for it. Many rogue cultivators began talking. Since the legacy had just been discovered, not many people had arrived yet. In 7 days, it'll be a fierce battle. Because the legacy would open in 7 days, the cultivators began finding places to wait quietly. Even the green-robed man sat down cross-legged nearby. The spring weather was pleasant, sunlight pouring down onto the plains, and a warm breeze blowing gently. The palace was so massive that the entire Skilian region was shaken by its emergence. The 7 days passed quickly. During this time, people from various factions and more rogue cultivators gathered here. As for Bai Chongfeng, the reason he was called the Slaughter God was because he was extremely bloodthirsty. It said that the year he was born, a star fell from the heavens. After some divination, it was confirmed to be the Star of 7 Slaughters. On the day he was born, his family died under strange circumstances. Everyone thought he had an unlucky fate, and they decided to abandon him in the wild to fend for himself. Just when everyone believed he would surely die, this newborn somehow survived. Some say they once saw blood elk feeding him and bloodthirsty lions guarding him in the wild. That's how he grew up. Bai Chongfeng's real rise to fame began with his battle against the sea-covering immortal sect. That sect was an imperial lineage and well known in the Skilian region. Their battle ended with Bai Chongfeng sealing off the entire territory of the sea-covering sacred ground and killing every single person in it. No survivors. Blood covered the land, and even the sky reeked of it. From that day on, the name Slaughter God became feared across the world. Most people avoided him because all his enemies were already corpses. Of course, Bai Chongfeng's life had more than just killing. He was a man who seemed to ignore life but still lived by his own rules. During the 7 days before the legacy opened, all sorts of people gathered. One day, a purple carriage flew in from the horizon, pulled by a crane. The crane floated proudly in the air, tall and slender, with a glowing red crest on its head. That's the righteous heavenly crane. Looks like someone from the vast immortal sacred ground is here, someone said quietly. The crane let out a sharp cry, and the curtain of the purple carriage lifted. A young man in a purple robe stepped out. He wore a warm smile, and his long hair was neatly tied back. He had the aura of a refined young noble. That's Hao Chun, the current holy son of the vast immortal sacred ground. These imperial lineages are too much. They already have the best resources, and now they're here to compete with us too, someone grumbled. Just then, a dragon-like roar echoed nearby. 3 beasts, looking like a cross between dragons and flood serpents, flew through the clouds toward them. They were pulling what looked like a giant bed. To be exact, it was more like a large, soft cushion. It was several meters long and surrounded by sheer curtains, through which one could vaguely see what was inside. On the cushion lay a lazy figure, surrounded by several maids serving them. It's that she-devil from the Grand River God sect again, a rogue cultivator muttered, annoyed. In the Skilian region, almost everyone knew that the Grand River God sect's holy daughter, Luo Xingqing, loved disguising herself as a man. Though a woman, she often appeared as a charming playboy, always surrounded by beautiful girls, living freely. This legacy will go to one person only. The rest of you are just here to make up the numbers. The Slaughter God's legacy is extremely dangerous. Why don't you all give up and let me have it? Luo Shengqing's clear voice floated down from the sky. Miss Luo, you shouldn't get involved. Precisely because it's so dangerous, let us fight for it. It'd be a shame if your pretty face got scratched, a rogue cultivator joked. These rogue cultivators wandered the world and weren't too afraid of people from the imperial lineages. As people chatted, someone suddenly shouted in surprise. Look, is there someone on top of the Blood Palace? Everyone turned to look. On the palace sat a tiger and a young man. The young man had one leg crossed over the other and was lying there lazily. Hey, friend, what are you doing up there? someone called out. Sunbathing, the young man on the Blood Palace replied with a smile. Friend, this palace is full of danger. You'd better come down, someone warned. The young man simply said, oh, and then rode the dark sky tiger down slowly. As Su Zimo landed, someone greeted him. I'm Wang Huikuan from the northern continent. May I ask where you're from, friend? Eastern continent, Su Zimo said with a smile. Are you also here for the slaughter god's legacy? Someone asked. Something like that, Su Zimo nodded with a grin. Traveling all the way from the eastern continent to the middle continent. Must have been quite a journey. Wang Huikuan smiled. Rogue cultivators loved making friends. Whether they were genuine or not didn't matter. Having friends meant more places you could go in the future. As they chatted, a proud-looking young man approached from the distance. Chapter 566. You messing with me? The young man looked fairly young. He wore a yellow robe and had a chubby build. Behind him stood two old men with overwhelming auras. The young man walked up to Su Zimo, patted the back of the dark sky tiger, and smiled. Friend, this mount of yours looks pretty good. Seems to have some wild ancient beast bloodline in it. It was a gift, Su Zimo replied with a smile and a nod. Then why don't you name your price and sell it to me? I really like it, the young man said with a grin. It's not for sale, Su Zimo said, shaking his head. Do you know who I am? The young man asked, looking at Su Zimo with a smirk. Have we met before? Su Zimo frowned slightly. Hearing this, Wang Huikuan tugged lightly on Su Zimo's sleeve and whispered, his name is Feiyu Changhong. His sister is Feiyu Qingyun. Su Zimo thought for a moment, then shook his head. Never heard of her. Feiyu Qingyun, you haven't heard of her? She's the fiancée of Xiang Kunlun. Wang Huikuan explained quickly. Are you just making names up now? Su Zimo looked genuinely puzzled. Wang Huikuan stared at him like he was looking at some kind of alien. After a while, he said slowly, the current holy son of the imperial throne sacred ground. Oh, Su Zimo nodded calmly. Are we close or something? Probably not. People like that aren't in our league. Wang Huikuan guessed. Well, if we're not close, then why the hell should I sell my mount to him? Just because he's uglier than me? Su Zimo asked with a confused look. Friend, don't you get it? You don't want to mess with Xiang Kunlun's brother-in-law? Wang Huikuan said, trying to calm him down. And I heard Feiyu Qingyun really dotes on her one and only brother. The fuck's that got to do with me? Su Zimo asked, shaking his head. Why's it so hard to explain to you? Wang Huikuan said, growing anxious. It's just a mount. Give it to him. For us rogue cultivators, keeping your life is more important than anything. Even some former Grand Emperors like Grand Emperor Tai Yuan started as rogue cultivators. Trust me, our paths may begin lowly and humble, but there are many routes to changing fate. Ordinary people can do great things too. Wang Huikuan seemed to be getting emotional and even recited a line. When autumn comes on September 8th, my flowers bloom and all others wither. He looked like a man ready to defy fate and rewrite his destiny. Su Zimo paused for a moment and finally said quietly, Who told you I was a rogue cultivator? Aren't you?
No.
Then what are you? The current holy son of the true martial sacred ground. The one with 4 emperors in one lineage? Exactly. At that moment, the atmosphere became a little awkward. You messing with me? Wang Huikuan asked, his face hard to describe. You didn't ask earlier, Su Zimo replied. All right, you two big shots talk. I'll see myself out, Wang Huikuan said and quietly stepped to the side. What are you two babbling about over there? Feiyu Changhong frowned and looked at Su Zimo. Nothing. Just letting you know I'm not selling the mount, Su Zimo replied. Feiyu Changhong paused, then suddenly smiled. I like your attitude, but if you're going to be arrogant, you better have the strength to back it up. He waved his hand, and the 2 old men behind him stepped forward, their auras overwhelming. Both were in the Imperial Meridian realm. That showed just how favored Feiyu Changhong was. A God Meridian Realm cultivator is usually one of the strongest in a sect without an elder stepping in. And an Imperial Meridian Realm cultivator is normally a core elder or even a sect leader. They wouldn't be used as bodyguards. So having two of them here was already pushing the limits. You brat, refusing kindness? Time to learn a lesson. One of the old men stepped forward with a ferocious look. His Imperial Meridian aura flared. You know, Suzimo said, shaking his head. You could have been anything and you chose to be a dog. For someone like you, your cultivation path ends here. You're looking for death. The old man's face changed, and he charged at Suzimo. With a loud smack, Suzimo slapped him away like a fly. Seeing this, the other old man quickly stepped back in shock, staring at Suzimo. What, you scared? Suzimo chuckled. The old man took a deep breath, aura rising, and summoned a dark cloud above his head. His true fate appeared behind him, and the cloud spun in the air. Then, with a loud boom, the black mist charged at Suzimo. Inside the cloud, two eyes flickered in and out of the shadows. Pointless struggle, Suzimo muttered, shaking his head. He raised his hand and slapped again. Spirit force surged, and the dark mist was instantly obliterated. A shrill scream rang out as the old man's body was completely wiped out. After finishing off the two men, Suzimo turned his gaze to Feiyu Changhong. The young man didn't look scared. Instead, he smiled and said, Impressive. You're stronger than I expected. And, Suzimo asked with a smirk, but you've crossed me now. It won't end well for you. You got lucky today. Consider it your lucky break. Feiyu Changhong snorted. Suzimo chuckled, then calmly looked at Feiyu Changhong and asked, Are you afraid of dying? You dare kill me? Feiyu Changhong narrowed his eyes and gave a mocking laugh. You're not afraid of my brother-in-law? Suzimo didn't say a word. He just started walking slowly toward him. There was no pressure coming off him, but the way he walked made Feiyu Changhong feel intense fear. What are you doing? He asked, backing up a few steps, wary. So, you are afraid of dying, Suzimo said as he slowly drew his giant blade, the Shadow Tyrant. You kill me and you won't leave the Skilyuan region alive, Feiyu Changhong shouted. Not something a dead man should worry about, Suzimo replied. He walked up to Feiyu Changhong, raised the massive blade, and said with a smile, Do you know how long it's been since my blade tasted blood? As the blade came down, a dark light suddenly appeared around Feiyu Changhong. That light blocked Suzimo's strike, and then it shot straight into the sky. Chapter 567 Xiang Kunlun. The light pierced through the swirling clouds and tore open the space ahead. A young figure appeared in midair. Light gathered around him, and dark spiritual energy surged wildly. His black robe fluttered in the wind, and on his back was a large, wild-looking blade. The blade had no sheath. It was wrapped only in a cloth. Even though he was just standing there, he gave off a unique presence, as if the entire world revolved around him. Everyone's eyes were drawn to him naturally. Looking at the young man, the same two words rose in everyone's mind: dominance. It was the kind of dominance that said, I am unmatched. Who in the world doesn't know my name? The moment he appeared, someone below shouted, Xiang Kunlun. No, it's just one of his clones. Someone else shook their head. Feiyu Changhong really is spoiled. Xiang Kunlun actually used one of his clones to protect him. That's not something just anyone can get. As the clone appeared, Feiyu Changhong called out happily, Brother-in-law. The clone gave a small nod, then turned its gaze to Suzimo. The clone only had basic awareness, not a full personality, so it didn't speak much. Xiang Kunlun, Suzimo whispered. The clone stared at Suzimo, its aura surging. In that moment, he looked even more imposing. The will of his blade shot toward the sky, combined with the power of the God Meridian realm, spreading beneath the heavens. He's already stepped into the God Meridian realm, the vast immortal sacred ground's holy sun. Hao Chun said seriously from afar. With a wave of his hand, the clone caused for beastly roars to echo from the sides. Suddenly, the skies above began to shift. For mythical god-beast shadows appeared: azure dragon, white tiger, vermilion bird, and black tortoise. They looked incredibly lifelike, perfectly formed. The powerful beast pressure spread in all directions, as if these creatures had truly come back from the ancient wild era, arriving with overwhelming majesty. The dragon soared, the tiger roared, the bird screeched, and the tortoise growled. "Isn't this the four-symbol scripture from the imperial throne's sacred ground?" someone asked. "Yes, created by the North Emperor long ago. It's said to perfectly replicate the four god beasts. Before he carried the heaven's will of the world, the North Emperor made his name with this move," others replied. People around began to talk. "This young guy is in trouble. Xiang Kunlun really is the leader of this generation in the Skilian region. Just a clone alone already makes others feel outclassed. I think he has a good shot at carrying the heavens will this era. Don't speak too soon. Never underestimate the geniuses of the world." In the sky, the four god beasts roared, their power shaking half the heavens. With a wave from the clone, the beasts charged toward Su Zimo. The azure dragon coiled through the sky. The white tiger held its ground in the east. The vermilion bird burned the sky with flames, and countless symbols glowed on the black tortoise's shell. Su Zimo's eyes lit up with bolts of lightning. Purple sparks crackled in his gaze. His eyes seemed to hold a terrifying power, deep and vast, indifferent to all beings. Crackling sounds echoed around. The four god beasts surged forward with overwhelming might. At that moment, Su Zimo let out a shout. Twin bolts of lightning shot from his eyes. The lightning looked like the descent of a thunder god, tearing through the void with a power that exploded like sunlight ripping through the sky. Thunder boomed in all directions. Su Zimo's heavenly tribulation god eyes had 3 levels: 9 heavens god lightning, martial god thunder, and chaos god tribulation. What he used now was the 2nd level martial god thunder. When the destructive lightning erupted, the 4 god beasts roared and clashed with it. But lightning is one of the most unstoppable forces of nature. In just moments, the 4 beasts were torn apart. The lightning kept going, unstoppable and divine. Martial god thunder is known for being the most dangerous and violent of all lightning. It cried out like a divine punishment, crashing toward Xiang Kunlun's clone. With a loud explosion, the devastating lightning erupted around the clone. The sky went silent. Everyone stared with wide eyes, speechless. As the dust began to settle, the lightning faded bit by bit. The shattered space started to heal. Faint purple sparks still trembled in the air. Su Zimo looked up. In the fading dust, something began to form. "You seem to have forgotten that the 3rd Grand Emperor of our imperial throne's sacred ground is the Thunder Emperor." A calm but strong voice echoed from above. Then, with a roar, the silence was shattered. All dust was swept away. Everyone looked in shock as Xiang Kunlun's clone stood there completely unharmed. Around him, more and more lightning began to gather. The lightning was terrifying, fierce and tangled, pitch black like it could devour everything. What was even scarier was the figure forming behind him. A giant made of thunder. This thunder giant stood hundreds of feet tall, massive, powerful, and imposing. In its right hand, it held a huge hammer wrapped in lightning. It looked like the giant itself was born from pure thunder. Wherever the lightning spread, the space around it cracked. Even space itself couldn't heal fast enough. When it comes to thunder, our ancestor was the progenitor of the Thunder Dao, Xiang Kunlun's clone said calmly. "Playing with lightning, huh?" Su Zimo chuckled softly. The thunder giant leaned forward and slowly swung its hammer down at Su Zimo. Su Zimo didn't move, letting the hammer strike him directly. With a loud explosion, the space where he stood collapsed completely. But when everyone looked again, they saw Su Zimo still standing there, completely unharmed, staring coldly at Xiang Kunlun. The black lightning vanished the moment it touched him. Seeing this, Xiang Kunlun's clone narrowed its eyes, clearly surprised. "To take that blow and stay standing, you're in the top 10 among all the peers I've met," the clone said. "Don't flatter yourself. The Skilian region is big, And primordial heartlands are even bigger, Su Zimo said calmly. If you like lightning so much, then try this move of mine. Chapter 568, Unleashing Chaos God Tribulation. As Su Zimo finished speaking, gray-blue lightning spread from his eyes. Within that lightning, an ancient and terrifying aura began to form. Even the small arcs of electricity breaking out were enough to shatter the surrounding space. This move is called Chaos God Tribulation. It is supreme lightning. If you can take it, I'll admit defeat, Su Zimo said calmly. As the lightning spread, the clouds above were split apart, and a beam of gray-blue lightning shot up into the sky. It tore through the heavens with overwhelming power, and in the torn space, a lightning-formed eye appeared. The eye was grayish-blue and filled with swirling chaos. It looked alive, but it was cold and emotionless as it stared at Xiong Kunlun. The moment this eye appeared, the giant holding the hammer began to tremble with fear. The surrounding dark energy surged even more violently, as if warning the gray-blue eye. Xiong Kunlun stared up, his expression serious. Just one glance at that eye was enough to sense its immense power and the terrifying force it contained. "What is that?" someone cried out in shock. "Never seen it before. It kind of looks like the legendary divine punishment," someone guessed. "What's divine punishment?" "They say any creature that breaks the rules of the Yuanzhong continent will face a punishment from the eye of the heavenly Tao, a lightning strike from heaven." The crowd below was talking, all looking serious. No one expected the battle to escalate to this point. "You're strong," Xiong Kunlun said after a long, focused stare. Su Zimo didn't reply. He was now surrounded by a sea of lightning, his eyes so filled with energy that they couldn't even be clearly seen. The lightning eye above locked onto Xiong Kunlun. Then, a loud, powerful voice echoed through the skies. No one knew where it came from. "Divine punishment." As the cold voice fell, a massive lightning torrent shot down from the sky, tearing through the heavens and crashing straight towards Xiong Kunlun. "Ah!" As the thunder torrent slammed into the giant, the lightning hammer flickered, and Xiong Kunlun screamed in pain, struggling against it. "I am the supreme lightning. All thunder in this world is mine to command." That grand voice echoed again as the lightning flood swept through everything, destroying all in its path. "My clone may have lost to you, but I accept it," Xiong Kunlun's voice echoed through the skies. "But one day, when we meet again, I will fight you once more." His last words faded as the lightning flood surged past. Silence returned, and everything was calm again. "I'll be waiting," Su Zimo replied softly. Xiong Kunlun's defeat was understandable. After all, it was only a clone. A clone couldn't fully use one's true power. Whether it was revealing one's fate or using full abilities, a clone couldn't manage it. And this clone didn't necessarily represent Xiong Kunlun's full strength at this stage either. Once the lightning wiped everything out, Su Zimo ignored the stunned crowd and slowly walked toward Feiyu Changhong. "So what if he's Xiong Kunlun?" Su Zimo said coldly. What are you doing?" Feiyu Changhong backed away in fear. "What do you think?" Su Zimo said, dragging his shadow tyrant behind him. "Fine, I won't buy the mount. Okay?" Feiyu Changhong said quickly. "You might not want it, but my mount is a little hungry," Su Zimo replied. As soon as he finished speaking, the dark sky tiger roared and leaped forward. Its massive body surged with beastly power. With its mouth wide open, it bit half of Feiyu Changhong's body and started chewing. Feiyu Changhong's screams rang out as the tiger slowly devoured him. Before long, only a bloody mess remained on the ground. The nearby crowd looked horrified. Someone whispered, "He's ruthless. But doing this means he's now completely at odds with Xiong Kunlun and the Imperial Throne's sacred ground. Not smart. Even if he beat the clone, Xiong Kunlun is far more powerful than that." But others disagreed. "We cultivators pursue a free heart and clear mind. If we're always afraid and playing it safe, what kind of martial path are we even walking?" "I agree. Some people bow for so long, they forget how to stand tall." Someone glanced at the green-robed man and joked, City Lord of myriad demons, Feiyu Chonghong was one of your sex people. Why didn't you step in? Step in? And die? The green-robed man replied coolly. If you don't know when to shut up, maybe don't talk at all. Seeing the city lord's expression darken, no one dared to joke further. After all, news of a sect's holy son's clone being defeated would damage their reputation once it spread. But everyone also knew that once word got out, this young man, Su Zimo, would become widely known in the Skilyuan region. After killing Feiyu Chonghong, Su Zimo leaned against the dark sky tiger to rest, quietly waiting for the Slaughter God Tower to open. Some rogue cultivators nearby looked uneasy. With him being this strong, how are we supposed to compete for the Slaughter God's legacy? Legacy also depends on luck. Unless he's stronger than the Slaughter God, it doesn't really matter. Just try not to cross paths with him, someone muttered. Everyone waited. By the afternoon, the sun gave off a dark yellow glow. Birds flew across the glowing sky as sunset painted the horizon. The Slaughter God Tower glowed under the sunset. Soft red spirit force began to spill from the palace, covering the area in a blood-colored haze. The tower was massive, with 8 main gates surrounding it. At its peak were carvings of legendary fierce beasts. The outer walls were covered in all sorts of strange creatures. A lion with 9 heads, a snake woman with 8 legs, a humanoid monster with just 1 eye. Suddenly, 8 loud bangs echoed, and the tower's 8 gates swung open. As the gates opened, the blood-red spirit force surged even more fiercely. Enter my Slaughter God Tower, and you may inherit the legacy of Bai Chongfeng. A cold voice came from inside the palace. The crowd exchanged nervous glances, whispering quietly, but no one dared to be the first to enter. The name Slaughter God carried so much weight that, even at the threshold, it struck fear into everyone's hearts. Chapter 569, Entering Slaughter God Tower. Since no one's going, I'll go first, Su Zimo said as he put away the dark sky tiger and, dressed in his purple robe, stepped into the Slaughter God Tower. Seeing his back, the others finally began moving inside as well. The moment Su Zimo entered, he sensed something was off. The tower was filled with blood-red spirit force. Anyone who breathed it in would start to feel violent and aggressive. Su Zimo isolated the energy, but some nearby rogue cultivators had already started attacking each other under its influence. Looking straight ahead, the tower resembled a maze. The paths extended in every direction, and along the sides were many tightly packed rooms that looked ancient. Each room had a bronze door with a lion-shaped iron ring. Su Zimo took the middle path. Each room only allowed 1 person to enter. Once someone entered a room, a seal would form, preventing anyone else from going in. Su Zimo didn't rush like the others to grab a room. He calmly walked until he found an empty one and stepped inside. Inside, the blood-red spirit force was even thicker, almost forming into a fog. The room space was vast, much larger than it appeared from the outside. It looked more like a boundless plain, bare, endless, with nothing in sight. At the entrance to the plain stood a stone monument. Su Zimo walked closer and saw 2 words written on the blood-colored stone. Kill people. Su Zimo frowned. As he stepped past the monument, there was a buzzing sound, as if something had been activated. A transparent barrier appeared around the entire plain, locking it in completely. Then, a loud roaring came from all directions. The ground cracked open beneath his feet, and blood-covered corpses began crawling out from the earth. They were more like zombies, undead creatures with varying strength depending on their power when they were alive. 100,000 zombies. Kill them all to pass to the second trial. The blood-red spirit force above gathered into words in front of Su Zimo. Interesting, Su Zimo smiled. Forget everything else, even if these zombies just stood still, killing 100,000 of them would exhaust anyone. With a wave of his right hand, he tore open the space in front of him. From within it, the massive form of Chaos stepped out. Kill them all, Su Zimo ordered. As Chaos started tearing through the zombie horde, Su Zimo relaxed. He hadn't come here for Bai Chongfeng's legacy. Although Bai Chongfeng had been powerful, he was only at the level of an immortal path cultivator in his prime. What truly drew Su Zimo here was a reaction from the True God Sword's shard within his body. It seems one of the fragments of the True God Sword was inside the Slaughter God Tower. The True God Sword was tied to the secrets of the ancient celestial court, once wielded by the strongest being of the desolate era. Su Zimo couldn't pretend he wasn't tempted. After sealing the monsters in the blood rune space, the Flower Keeper had vanished along with the Valley of Flowers. Only the legacy of the desolate era he created and the 5 fragments of the True God Sword remained. It's said that once all 5 pieces are gathered, the sword can be reforged, and the ancient celestial court can be reopened. The sword is the key to that seal. To follow in the footsteps of the holy progenitor, to uncover the forgotten history, and trace the origins of the desolate era, that was the true goal. Su Zimo had already found 4 fragments. This would be the 5th and final one. Since chaos was at the immortal realm, the zombie army, while large, was no real threat. Still, the sheer number made the trial fittingly brutal. It was easy to see why it was called Kill People. Took over an hour, but chaos eventually wiped out all the zombies. When the last one died, the surrounding barrier vanished. The room door reopened, signaling it was time to move on. Su Zimo stepped out and saw that many room doors had opened. Some doors had no one emerge, obviously those inside had died. Those who did survive were covered in blood, with thick scabs crusted all over their bodies. They looked like they'd been pulled out of a sea of blood. The strong stench of blood filled the air. Su Zimo could tell from their blank, numb expressions that these people had lost something in the killing. They now looked at life without emotion. "You really are something, brother. Coming out of the first trial still looking so calm and relaxed," a voice said. Su Zimo turned and saw Hao Chun, the holy son of the vast immortal sacred ground, walking over. Unlike most others, Hao Chun only had a few bloodstains on his clothes and still looked composed. "You're not bad either," Su Zimo replied. "Are you really that interested in Bai Chongfeng's legacy?" Hao Chun asked. "His legacy may be strong, but it's not for everyone. From what I've seen, it looks like Bai Chongfeng wants to train a killing machine." "Then what's your reason?" Su Zimo asked with a smile. "To be honest, I didn't come for the legacy either. Bai Chongfeng once killed a grand elder of our vast immortal sacred ground. I'm here for one thing," Hao Chun said sincerely. "You're hoping I won't fight you for it?" Su Zimo asked. "I hope you'll let me have it. I would be truly grateful," Hao Chun said, cupping his hands respectfully. "Don't worry, I'm only here for a specific item. I'm not interested in the rest," Su Zimo said, shaking his head. "Thank you," Hao Chun nodded. As they talked, all the room doors had opened. The first trial was officially over. In front of them, blood-colored spirit force surged and formed a spatial portal. The portal spun counterclockwise. It was unclear where it led. "I don't want to go in. I want to leave," someone said, clearly shaken by the first trial. "You can't leave. The moment we entered, this tower was sealed shut," someone else replied coldly. "Unless your strength surpasses Bai Chongfeng's, there's no way to break the space." "Sigh, I should have known. With the way Bai Chongfeng was, there was no turning back the moment we stepped in." Chapter 570 Killing Intent. "Let's go," Su Zimo said as he glanced at Hao Chun, once again stepping through the portal first. The others had no choice but to follow and enter the portal as well. Once inside, Su Zimo noticed that the space around him began to split apart. He and the others were each transported to different, separate realms. Less than a minute later, after his body stabilized, the scene before him became clear. He stood in a small space, surrounded entirely by blood-red spirit force. He could barely see anything around him. Beside him appeared another stone tablet. "Killing Intent." Those 2 words were carved on it, with a smaller line underneath. 3,000 years of dreams. I wish to sever all emotions." As soon as Su Zimo crossed the stone tablet, the red energy surged like a sea and wrapped around him completely. He felt a slight dizziness in his mind, knowing it was caused by the blood-red aura. But this was part of the second trial and necessary to reach Bai Chongfeng's legacy, so he didn't resist it. He wasn't worried anyway. Paimon was guarding him in the dark. Even if the slaughter god himself were reborn, it wouldn't matter. As he drifted off to sleep inside the red mist, he felt like he entered a dream, or rather countless layers of dreams. In one dream, he was a swordsman devoted to the path of the blade. With a 3-foot sword, he roamed the world, seeking to reach the pinnacle of swordsmanship. But because of his stubborn pursuit of strength, he lost the woman who always stayed by his side. Only at the end of his life, staring at his sword, did he realize he had missed too much. In another dream, he was an ordinary man with no disasters or grand achievements. He got married, had a child, raised his son with love, and passed away peacefully. In yet another dream, he was a talentless youth mocked by all. During his darkest days, a man appeared and took him as a disciple, teaching him martial arts, wisdom, and helping him reach the peak. Su Zimo experienced countless dream lives, each one deeply vivid and incredibly real. They say life is like a play. These dreams didn't feel fake. They felt like real lives he had truly lived. Each dream left a lasting impression, burned into his memory. When he finally woke up, although only an hour had passed in the real world, he had experienced 3,000 years of dreams. Opening his eyes, he felt a deep sense of time lost, like the world had changed while he slept. "What a strange experience," Su Zimo said with a small laugh. Bai Chongfeng truly had some impressive methods. Or maybe he had gone to great lengths to set up this legacy. Su Zimo realized, no one in this world is simple. This dream technique, which tempered one's heart and resolve, was incredibly rare. Even a supreme lineage like the true martial sacred ground didn't have a technique like this. Just then, he heard footsteps nearby. He looked up and saw a woman dressed in red slowly walking toward him. "Shuangyan," Su Zimo called out instinctively, but he quickly came to his senses. This was only someone from one of his dreams. In that life, he was a swordsman, and she was his closest companion. It had only been a dream, but the memory felt real. Then more and more people appeared around him, figures from each of his different dream lives. "Kill them all, and you'll pass the second trial." These people had no power to fight back. They stood like lambs waiting for slaughter. At that moment, Su Zimo finally understood why this trial was called Killing Intent. 3,000 years of dreams. I wish to sever all emotions. Without emotions like joy, anger, sorrow, and fear, what does it mean to be human? But if he didn't kill them, he couldn't pass the second trial. Su Zimo sat down cross-legged and began to steady his heart, refusing to be influenced by anything around him. This trial tested one's inner strength, one's Tao heart. If all of this was a dream, then why should he get emotionally involved? Why not just remain calm and hold on to his true self? Life is like a dream. The wind and rain come at night. Who knows how many petals fall? What he had done, whom he had met, it couldn't be changed. So why dwell on it? The Tao heart must push forward. After the clouds clear, the sun will shine again. At that moment, Su Zimo felt his Tao heart elevate by several levels. He slowly opened his eyes, looked at the people before him, gently raised his hand, and softly said, "Be gone." The space began to ripple, and all the figures faded away. Where the stone tablet had stood, another portal appeared. Su Zimo walked through and found himself in a massive arena. The arena stretched endlessly. In the distance, curved structures shaped like horns encircled it. There wasn't a single person there. Su Zimo was confused. Then, a portal opened nearby, and a rogue cultivator stepped out. "Ruer, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have killed you. But I had no choice," the man cried out in pain. "You wait for me. I'm coming to join you." Right after saying this, the man exploded in midair. With a loud boom, the space was once again left with only Su Zimo. Before he could even react, several more portals opened. More figures stepped out, including Hao Chun of the vast immortal sacred ground and Luo Xingqing, the holy daughter of the Grand River God sect. Brother Su, you're faster than me again, Hao Chun said as he walked over with a smile. Though he was smiling, his expression looked troubled. Are you okay? Su Zimo asked. Brother Su, have you ever loved someone? Hao Chun suddenly asked. You entered the dream? Su Zimo asked. I shouldn't have come here, Hao Chun muttered, then nodded. After this, I'll return to the sect and enter closed-door training. I won't come out until I've made a breakthrough. I can't help you with that. All I can say is don't get stuck in it. Try to accept what's already happened. Accept the truth, Su Zimo said. As time passed, more people began to appear in the arena. Some came out and immediately took their own lives. The weight on everyone's hearts was plain to see. Chapter 571, The Great Dream. Those who passed the second trial already understood what had happened. The feelings they carried, no words were needed. Once everyone had exited, the entire arena began to tremble. The curved, horn-like structures surrounding the arena each shot a beam of black light into the sky. The light reached the heavens and covered the entire sky above. Soon, another line of words appeared in the sky. Final battle, kill everyone. The last one alive will receive the inheritance. When they saw this, most people's faces turned grim. Many felt like they'd been tricked. The first trial forced them into numb slaughter. The second nearly shattered their will. And now only one person would survive. At that moment, many eyes turned to Su Zimo. He was clearly the strongest here, and also the most likely to claim the inheritance. Brother Su, you're not really going to do it, are you? Even Hao Chun looked at him warily, forcing a smile. I don't really care whether any of you live or die, Su Zimo said. But I won't dance to someone else's tune either. Then what do we do now? Hao Chun sighed. We're all trapped here. If I'd known the inheritance came with this much risk, I wouldn't have come. Su Zimo just smiled and shook his head. It was the legacy of the slaughter god. Anyone who entered should have expected this. Everyone, I'll say this once, so listen carefully, Su Zimo said loudly, turning to the crowd. I'm going to break this barrier. Once it's open, leave immediately. Don't try to take anything from the inheritance. If anyone dares ignore my warning, don't blame me for what happens next. Understood, sir. The legacy may be valuable, but you need to live to use it, one rogue cultivator quickly replied. All we want now is to get out alive. Su Zimo nodded slightly, then waved his right hand. Chaos stepped out from a portal. The 5 steps of immortality are: Step 1, Arcane Immortal. Step 2, Celestial Immortal. Step 3, Immortal Sovereign. Step 4, Undying Immortal. Step 5, Zenith Immortal. Chaos had recently advanced from Profound Immortal to Celestial Immortal. As its powerful beast aura rolled out, the expressions of everyone present changed dramatically. An immortal beast, someone stammered. Where is this guy from? I've never heard of him in the Skiluan region. Could he be a genius from another realm? Everyone started speculating, but no one dared to approach. They all quickly backed to the edges of the arena. Chaos lifted its claw, releasing a massive wave of beastly power, and slammed it down onto the barrier. Boom! The barrier shook but didn't break. Chaos narrowed its eyes. Its massive wings folded inward, and a black hole formed at its stomach. Inside the black hole, red and purple lightning crackled violently. The arcs of energy felt like they contained ancient terror. Then Chaos summoned its full power. A thunderous surge of lightning, glowing an intense purple tinged with red, burst out. The lightning shattered layer after layer of space, crashing into the barrier like a shockwave. Thunder exploded across the sky. Cracks began to spread across the barrier. With a roar of break, Chaos shattered the entire sky barrier into pieces. In front of where the barrier broke stood a high platform. On the platform floated 3 glowing items. Beside them sat a throne. On the throne was a skeleton. Its bones were red, and its clothes had long since decayed. The skeleton sat upright, gripping a sword with its left hand that stabbed into the ground. The scene was both shocking and awe-inspiring. Before anyone could react, a figure suddenly shot into the air toward the three glowing items. Everyone looked up. It was Luo Shangqing, the saintess of the Grand River God sect. "You're the first to try and steal something in front of me," Su Zimo said with a light smile. Just as she was about to reach the platform, chaos swung down its giant hand, sealing the entire space and pinning her in place. But then, from Luo Shangqing's ring, a leaf flew out. As the leaf appeared, her body teleported through space, avoiding chaos's pressure and appearing beside the platform. "Void Leaf." Su Zimo narrowed his eyes and smiled. "So you came prepared." Void Leaf came from Void Valley. Though not as powerful as the Void Tree, it could still tear through sealed space, even space locked down by an ascended being. But just as she was about to grab the glowing items, a command from Su Zimo triggered Paimon, who was hiding in the shadows. Paimon personally sealed the space. Under his seal, not even the Void Leaf could bypass it. Luo Shangqing, frozen mid-movement, couldn't move a muscle. Cold sweat rolled down her forehead. "I just said I don't give second chances," Su Zimo said calmly. "Kill her." Chaos's giant claw slammed down toward her. Just as she was about to be crushed, a powerful force suddenly erupted from her body, forcing back Chaos's claw and wrapping her in a beam of light as she fled in panic. Worthy of being the Grand River God Sect Saintess, so many layers of protection, Su Zimo said with a small laugh. Seeing all this, the rogue cultivators who had thoughts of trying something also gave up completely. Some had already started retreating from the Slaughter God Tower. Su Zimo walked toward the three glowing items. Hao Chun hesitated and said, "Brother Su, about what I mentioned before. I'll see if any of them are useful to me first," Su Zimo replied. Hao Chun quickly nodded and waited quietly. There were three glowing objects on the platform. Su Zimo picked up the first one. Inside was the fifth and final fragment of the True God Sword, the piece he had been searching for. As he touched it, the other four fragments inside him began to tremble. They resonated with excitement. A wave of sword intent surged through his body, flowing through his energy channels. He placed the fragment into his storage ring, then looked at the second glowing object. Inside was a dragon-shaped pill, crafted with lifelike detail. Chapter 572 Lord of Hell. The dragon pill looked as if it were alive, coiled in mist. It seemed ready to wake up. "Brother Su, that's the dragon saliva pill I've been searching for," Hao Chun said from the side. "This pill is refined from dragon saliva. As you know, the dragon race is extinct now, so each pill is rare and irreplaceable. I've reached a bottleneck in my cultivation, and I need it to attempt a breakthrough." Su Zimo glanced at the pill. It was indeed a good one for others, but for him, who had already reached the God Meridian realm, it was useless. Besides, dragons weren't scarce for him. "Take it," Su Zimo said, tossing the pill to him. "If you ever need anything, feel free to come find me at vast immortal sacred ground." Hao Chun bowed and then left. Su Zimo then picked up the third glowing item and found it was a book. Its light blue cover had 5 large characters, 3,000 Years of Dreams. Could this be? Su Zimo was surprised. He slowly opened the book. After reading for a while, he realized this was a technique that created dream worlds. It had 2 main functions. The first was to create dreams for oneself to temper the Tao heart. The Tao heart refers to the will to pursue one's path. It can't be cultivated through regular practice. It depends on one's life experiences and personal growth, and dreams just happen to be perfect for this purpose. The second function was to trap others in dreams, not to help them, but to destroy them. If mastered to the highest level, the dream time could be controlled freely. While the victim spent thousands of years dreaming, their body in the real world would age and die, unaware they were dying. Death without knowing it. This was an incredibly terrifying technique. Su Zimo put the book away. It would be useful later, and he planned to dedicate time to refine his techniques more thoroughly. Once finished, he looked at the blood-red skeleton in front of him. That corpse had been dead for countless years. "Come out. I sensed you a long time ago," Su Zimo said calmly. I've already given you everything. Must you still push me like this? A voice echoed from above. A man's astral form appeared in the air. He wore blood-red robes, and his long hair was the same color. He had sharp eyes and a long, gaunt face. His eyes, especially, were cold and terrifying. Just looking into them felt like falling into a sea of blood. Are you Bai Changfeng? Su Zimo asked curiously. Bai Changfeng is dead. Call me the slaughter god. The man said calmly. How did you die? Su Zimo asked. As someone who reached the immortal path, his lifespan shouldn't have ended so quickly. It was clear to Su Zimo that the man before him was a spirit. His physical body had decayed, and only the spirit remained hidden in the slaughter god tower. Without a body, a spirit couldn't last long. Su Zimo didn't know how he kept it going, but it clearly wasn't sustainable. You can't train like this. Eventually, you'll fade away. I get it now, Su Zimo smiled. You weren't really looking for someone to inherit your legacy. You were looking for a physical body to carry your spirit. Correct, the man admitted. But you ruined it. Even if I didn't, you likely wouldn't have succeeded, Su Zimo replied. The requirements were too strict. One mistake and both the host and your spirit would be destroyed. Su Zimo figured the man originally planned to take a body, but chaos broke the rules. Then, sensing Paymon's presence, he gave up showing himself again, until now. So what other options do I have? Bai Changfeng asked. Taking a gamble is still better than staying here waiting to fade away, he added. I have a proposal. Want to hear it? Su Zimo asked. What kind of proposal? Bai Changfeng frowned. I'll say this up front. I won't force you. But once you hear it, you have no other choice. Either agree, or I'll kill you. Do you still want to hear it? Bai Changfeng was silent for a moment, then nodded. Fine, speak. Su Zimo raised his hand, and a massive blue planet appeared behind him. Before Bai Changfeng could react, his spirit was sucked into it. The next second, he found himself in Su Zimo's personal world, the God world. Where is this? He asked, looking around. My own world, the God world, Su Zimo said calmly. Your own world? Do you even know what you're saying? Are you joking? Bai Changfeng asked in disbelief. You just listen. You don't need to understand the rest, Su Zimo said indifferently. My world has life, death, and reincarnation. I'm preparing to establish hell within the underworld. And I want you, the slaughter god, to be its first lord of hell. After death, the good souls will drink the water of forgetfulness at Mengpo Station and be reborn. The evil souls will enter hell. Depending on their crimes, they will be punished accordingly. Only after they have paid for their sins will they be allowed to reincarnate. You're serious? Bai Changfeng now looked at Su Zimo seriously. My world is still new. There's a lot that needs improving. Su Zimo nodded. If you become the Lord of Hell, once my world is fully formed, I can help you reincarnate. And if possible, I can even help you retain your memories. Bai Changfeng fell silent. He was tempted. This was clearly the best solution. Not only could he keep his spirit alive, he'd gain enormous power and potentially be reborn with his memories intact. Why me? He asked, still a little stunned. Because you're the slaughter god, Su Zimo replied. Among all the people I've met, you're the most suitable person to rule hell. Bai Changfeng stayed quiet for a long while, then finally nodded. If you're not lying, then deal. But let's be clear, Su Zimo added. You'll be in charge of hell. But in my world, you follow my rules. If you ever break them or disrupt the world I'm building, I won't show mercy. Don't worry. I understand what's at stake, Bai Changfeng said. Then Su Zimo rose into the air and began building the framework of hell, linked directly to the laws of the God world's heavenly Tao. Hell would be built with 18 levels. Chapter 573, True God Sword. Beside the underworld bridge, space began to collapse, and endless void energy started to gather. A tower-like structure quickly formed under the guidance of the heavenly Tao. In just a moment, it was complete. The tower had 18 levels. According to Suzumo's design, each person would be sent to a different floor of hell depending on the sins they committed in life. As for how hell would operate internally, Suzumo left that to Bai Changfeng to handle. Suzumo wouldn't interfere with that part. After all, anyone who ended up in hell had to be extremely wicked or evil. Good people and ordinary folks could walk straight across the underworld bridge and head into reincarnation. After explaining everything to Bai Changfeng, Suzumo left the God world. Now that Bai Changfeng was part of his world, there was no way for him to leave. When Suzumo's world fully matured in the future, he would decide whether Bai Changfeng could reincarnate, based on his performance. Suzumo had previously asked Bai Changfeng how he died. The answer was because of cultivating the 3,000 years of dreams. When he finally woke from the dream, time had already passed, and his physical body had rotted away. This also showed how dangerous that technique was. Though it was powerful in tempering the Tao heart, a single mistake could cause one to fall into the dream forever and die without realizing it. After leaving the God world, Suzumo exited the Slaughter God Tower. He placed the true God Sword's fragments inside the God world. At that moment, the 5 fragments floated in a circle, sword energy flowing between them. The sharp aura gradually built up from weak to strong. But even though the energy was forming, the sword couldn't fully take shape. After a long attempt, the fragments slowly scattered again. What's going on? Suzumo turned to ask Blue Soul. Blue Soul was the first sword fragment he had obtained, and it had developed its own consciousness. Master, after the true God Sword was broken, it's nearly impossible for it to rebuild itself. You must find the 9-curve God Flame and the Supreme God Hammer to reforge it, Blue Soul explained. And once reforged, it still lacks a sword spirit. This complicated? Suzumo frowned. Master, the true God Sword is the key to the ancient celestial court, Blue Soul said. Back when the holy progenitor hid many secrets, it was never meant to be easily reclaimed. Otherwise, after so many ages since the desolate era, someone would have already found it. Where can I find those things? Suzumo asked. I can only sense the sword spirit when it's close by, so I don't know yet, Blue Soul replied. But according to legends, the Supreme God Hammer is in the hands of the Stone Race from the Wild Era, and the 9-curve God Flame may be inside the Heavenly Tao Academy. All right, one step at a time, Suzumo sighed. He had no clues about the Stone Tribe for now, but Heaven's Path Academy was worth a visit. After all, it was the #1 academy on the continent. After leaving the Slaughter God Tower, most of the scattered cultivators outside had already left. Only a few remained, and when they saw Suzumo come out, they quietly slipped inside, hoping to find anything left behind. Suzumo then headed toward Void Valley. Located between the Ninelands region and the Skiluan region, Void Valley was hidden within a pocket of space. That afternoon, the sky was gloomy. Such weather was rare in spring. A fierce wind was blowing, and the trees on both sides of the road swayed violently in the wind. The rain came down in a cold drizzle, refreshing and steady. Not far ahead, the outline of a canyon slowly came into view. From above, the canyon resembled a winding dragon, coiling through the world. Dragon Ridge Mountains. At the mountain's entrance stood an ancient stone monument. The surface of the stone was cracked, and at the base were several lines of small text. Dragon Ridge Mountains, established during the era of the desolate Dragon Emperor. It spans 18,400 meters. Legend has it that dragon bones are buried within. The rest of the small characters describe the mountain range's history, but Suzumo didn't read further. He stepped directly into the mountains. This mountain range was considered the final barrier of the Skiluan region. Once crossed, he would enter the territory of the Ninelands region, where Void Valley was located. Due to the increasing rain, Suzumo found a large, leafy tree with thick branches to rest under. He decided to wait until the rain eased up before continuing. Spring rain had a charm of its own. In the quiet canyon, he enjoyed the rain alone. No one disturbed him. Only the sound of rain falling on leaves echoed in the background. Spring rain is worth more than oil. It floods the streets as it falls. A scholar slips and hits the ground. The cows nearby laugh out loud. Su Zimo remembered this old playful rhyme. He leaned against the tree, closing his eyes. At that moment, the wind carried a new sound. Several figures flew through the sky toward him. Leading them was a young man in blue, followed by 7 or 8 others around his age. They all wore the same style of clothing, marking them as disciples of the Grand River God sect. Su Zimo recalled their saintess, Luo Shengqing, the one he almost killed earlier. Though she escaped, she was seriously injured. Even with help, recovery wouldn't come quickly. Su Zimo guessed that these people might be here for revenge. As he was thinking that, the young man in blue stopped in front of the Dragon Ridge Mountains. Senior brother, based on his speed, he shouldn't have left the Skilyuan region yet. Could he have known we were coming for revenge and fled ahead of time? The disciples speculated among themselves. The blue-robed youth said nothing. He looked deep into the thick forest ahead. With a wave of his hand, a few insects flew from his sleeve. Shadow-chasing bugs, one disciple murmured in surprise. Senior brother Ruhuai, with this rain, wouldn't all traces be washed away? The bugs probably won't work. You don't understand, another disciple replied. These are mutated tracking bugs that senior brother Ruhuai bred himself. Within a 10-mile range, they can find anything living. As soon as he finished speaking, the bugs started trembling restlessly. They flew toward where Su Zimo was hiding. He's nearby. Wang Ruhuai narrowed his eyes and took off. The others followed quickly. Su Zimo glanced at the bugs buzzing above his head and smiled. Looks like they really are here for me. 8 figures quickly flew over and landed in front of him. Chapter 574, Book of Myriad Insects. You're the one who injured junior sister Shengqing? A young man asked as he stared at Su Zimo. And if I am? Su Zimo replied calmly. Then we'll take you down and bring you back to apologize in person, Wang Ruhuai said coolly, and wait for our junior sister's judgment. Meanwhile, in a distant city near the Dragon Ridge Mountains, 2 elderly men sat under a huge banyan tree playing chess. The one on the left wore blue robes, his hair and beard completely white. His face was thin, and he had a wise and ethereal aura. The one on the right wore red robes, bald-headed with a shiny face, looking like a fat monk who loved good food and wine. A big string of prayer beads hung around his neck. Enlightened sage, what brings you down the mountain this time? The man in blue asked while placing a piece on the board. Taoist Yushan, no need to pretend. Enlightened sage chuckled. The periods between the emergence of the chosen ones are getting shorter. Our temple, Bitter Lotus, must also search for a person of destiny. Only then can we rise again in these chaotic times. I'd say, since your Bitter Lotus temple has been sealed off for so long, this world's karma no longer belongs to you. Yushan replied with a smirk. Orders from the master are hard to disobey, Enlightened sage said with a sigh. Then perhaps consider our Grand River God sect. This generation's saintess isn't bad, Yushan offered. I heard your saintess nearly died a few days ago, Enlightened sage said with a laugh. The details are still unclear. I've already sent a disciple to arrest the person responsible. Yushan replied with a slightly displeased look. Your saintess was defeated, and you really think your disciple will succeed? Enlightened sage asked. In my heart, Ruhuai is the strongest disciple of this generation, Yushan said. He cultivates the book of myriad insects, and no bug in the world is beyond his control. It's a pity he's too soft-hearted to compete with Shengqing for the Holy Sun position. He gave it up in the end. One can give up the title, but not the position of emperor, Enlightened sage said with a smile and shake of the head. He didn't say it directly, but the meaning was clear. He had no faith in Grand River God sect saintess and wouldn't bet on her. The emperor's path is merciless and paved with corpses and blood. You don't just give it away. Yushan didn't respond. He placed another chess piece on the board and suddenly looked into the distance, toward the Dragon Ridge Mountains. There he is, he said. Su Zimo looked at the disciples from Grand River God sect and shook his head. I really don't know where you all get this confidence from. Then let's test it, Wang Ruhuai said flatly. Power surged around him, the aura of the Imperial Meridian realm. Wisps of spirit force wrapped around him, glowing a thick green. Strangely, his spirit force wasn't gaseous, but sticky and viscous, almost like liquid. As soon as the liquid energy appeared, Su Zimo heard rustling all around. Countless insects began to crawl out from every corner, some flying, some crawling, covering the forest floor. There were so many insects that they seemed to fill the entire forest. Senior brother Ruhuai's bug technique has improved again. Looks like we won't even need to act, one disciple said with a grin. Wang Ruhuai waved his right hand, sending the liquid spirit force to surround Su Zimo. Suddenly, the swarming insects went berserk and surged toward him like a tide. Su Zimo frowned slightly. The insects weren't particularly strong, but they were annoying due to sheer numbers. He raised his hand, and the space in front of him tore open. A massive beast walked out. It was one of the ancient god beasts Su Zimo had revived, the gluttonous Taotai. The beast was huge, with red-purple fur, thick and bristly like quills around its neck. Its horns were enormous, maybe over 10 meters long, and its eyes glowed a deep, murderous red. Its mouth was massive, nearly a meter wide, lined with 2 large fangs on both the top and bottom. Inside were several tightly packed rows of sharp teeth. "Taotai, your meal is here," Su Zimo said calmly. Legend says dragons had 9 sons, and Taotai was one of them. Though the legend isn't verified, Taotai was undoubtedly a glutton with the power to devour anything. As soon as the beast appeared, the disciples of Grand River God sect all looked uneasy. "What is that thing?" one asked in shock. "A god beast," Wang Ruhuai said seriously. Though Taotai had lost all its past cultivation from before death, under Su Zimo's care, it had now reached the Empyrean Meridian realm, regaining some of its former might. With a roar, Taotai opened its mouth. It looked like a bottomless abyss. A powerful force of devouring burst out from within it. Space around it twisted and warped. Dust flew, trees bent, and all the insects were sucked into its mouth. Not only insects, even nearby trees and rocks were being swallowed. "This is bad. Run!" Wang Ruhuai's face changed, and he shouted in panic. But it was too late. The devouring force had already engulfed the entire area. "Master, save me!" Wang Ruhuai cried out. A chess piece suddenly tore through space, shooting toward Taoya's mouth. With a loud boom, it exploded in front of the beast and knocked it to the side. Taotai stood up and roared angrily into the sky. Back in the distant city, the rain fell even harder, nearly crushing the massive banyan tree. "Isn't it inappropriate for you to interfere in a junior's fight, Brother Yushan?" Enlightened Sage asked with a smile. "What am I supposed to do? Let my disciple get killed?" Yushan replied. "Then I'll accompany you. I haven't left the temple in thousands of years. I'd like to see how today's prodigies measure up," Enlightened Sage said. The two of them tore open space and stepped in. In moments, they appeared at the edge of the forest in the Dragon Ridge Mountains. Su Zimo looked at the 2 newcomers, knowing the real fight was about to begin. "Greetings, young man," Enlightened Sage said with a friendly smile, putting his palms together. Chapter 575 9 Revolutions God Tower. "A monk?" Su Zimo smiled and said, "Shouldn't you be in a temple burning incense? What are you doing out here in the mortal world?" "I've always been a worldly monk. What's wrong with that?" Enlightened Sage chuckled. "You'd better worry about your current situation first, young man." Su Zimo looked up at Yushan and smirked. "I beat the junior ones, and now the elders are here? I won't make it too hard for you," Yushan replied calmly. "The monk and I will each use 1 move. If you survive, I'll let you go." "Young man, I'm just here to observe. I'm curious how strong today's youth really are." "No malice," Enlightened Sage added with a smile. "Your Grand River God sect isn't very impressive," Su Zimo said, shaking his head. "I even saved one of your grand elders before. Just a heads up, better go all out." Otherwise, I might kill you by accident. You're arrogant, Yushan snorted coldly. At that moment, a divine pressure of the God Meridian realm erupted from Yushan. He stood tall like a towering mountain, nearly overwhelming to look at. Su Zimo could tell that Yushan had just stepped into the God Meridian realm, first level, but his foundation was solid thanks to a powerful cultivation method. He struck with a palm. It looked simple, but in Su Zimo's eyes, the palm was a mountain. This power was immense, majestic, and unshakable. For the ocean moved 10,000 mountains. Both mountain and water must have spirit. If the spirit does not die, then the mountains still stand, and sunsets fall as before. As the mountain-like palm came down, Su Zimo drew his curved saber, Shadow Tyrant. A terrifying saber aura burst forth, rising like a massive tide into the sky. "What is that?" Enlightened Sage exclaimed as he felt the rising power. Su Zimo swung his saber. As it fell, space itself collapsed. "I gaze upon my saber, sharp and true." The saber gazes back, just the same. The saber crashed down with unstoppable momentum. Yushan's mountain hand shattered instantly. With a deafening boom, the mountain broke, along with his hand. The only thing that remained in the world was the saber's gleam. Everything else faded like an illusion in the mountain mists. Yushan stared blankly at his bleeding right hand, crisscrossed with countless saber cuts, nearly ruined. Even when he tried to heal it with spirit force, the remaining saber intent inside his hand kept tearing it apart. "Who do you think you're looking down on?" Su Zimo said coldly. "You're in the God Meridian realm?" Yushan asked, his expression grave. "You're not worthy of knowing. Maybe if your sacred lord showed up, that would be a bit closer," Su Zimo answered indifferently. Then he turned toward Enlightened Sage. "Monk, you still want to go?" "A monk doesn't lie. I said I'd try, so I will." Enlightened Sage sighed with a bitter smile. "I knew joining the fun would get me in trouble. As Buddha says, there is no trouble in this world. It's people who seek it." "Still yapping about philosophy, huh?" Su Zimo laughed. "Be careful," Yushan warned from the side. Enlightened Sage clasped his hands together, expression solemn. "I am Buddha. I am both joy and sorrow," he chanted softly. As the words left his mouth, his form changed, turning into a statue of Buddha. This Buddha had many faces, some smiling, some sorrowful. "Would you lay down your blade?" the Buddha statue asked in a strange voice. "Trying to trick me again?" Su Zimo smiled and raised his saber, unleashing another wave of saber intent. "Bitter sea of all beings," Enlightened Sage softly chanted. A black ocean suddenly emerged from the sky, covering everything. Inside the sea were reflections of countless lives, millions of people, in all states and forms. The sea surrounded Su Zimo, and darkness closed in. Some laughed, some cried, some raged, and some mourned. They all rushed toward him like mad. Su Zimo swung his saber, and it cut right through them. He soon realized they weren't real. They were spirit illusions, soul attacks. "In this world, I've never met a soul attack that could break my 9 revolutions God Tower," Su Zimo said with a smile. As the crowd rushed him, the first gate of the 9 revolutions God Tower opened. A beast, the howling Sunwolf, stepped out. With ancient power and savage might, it stood guard. Any spirit that approached was devoured and torn apart. Seeing this, Enlightened Sage narrowed his eyes and chanted once more. "All beings become Buddha." Suddenly, the mad spirits stopped. They stood peacefully, hands together, shining with golden light. They had all turned into Buddhas. These Buddha forms had boosted strength, speed, and power, and they charged again in overwhelming numbers. The howling Sunwolf began to tire, and finally the first tower was breached. The second tower opened, revealing another guardian beast. It looked like a giant rock, covered in golden feathers. When it spread its wings, it could cover 1,000 miles. This was the Leviathan, a beast that feeds on dragons. It swam in deep seas, soared across oceans, and stirred the heavens with a single flap of its wings. When the Leviathan appeared above the ocean-like domain of the second gate, its size was unimaginable. Its claws scraped the water's surface, causing massive explosions and twisters to erupt. The army of Buddha spirits entered the sea to cross it, but with a single screech the Leviathan dove through space. Waves roared. Its wings sliced through the air, feathers sharp as blades. Hundreds of Buddha spirits were destroyed instantly. "What is this soul defense?" Enlightened Sage shouted in shock. Before he could react, the golden Leviathan turned into a streak of light and flew straight toward him. Chapter 576. The Caravan. The golden-winged Leviathan tore through layer after layer of space. Its wings stretched for thousands of miles. In a flash, it crossed from one end of the void to the other. Enlightened Sage had no time to react. With a loud boom, the Leviathan's claws slashed through the Buddha statue. Then it vanished back into the second tower of Su Zimo's 9 Revolutions God Tower. Su Zimo looked up to see cracks spreading across Enlightened Sage's Buddha form. A moment later, it shattered completely. "Benefactor, you are truly merciful." Enlightened Sage bowed respectfully to Su Zimo, sighing. He knew the Leviathan could have killed him easily if it had wanted to. As soon as he finished speaking, the dark ocean of suffering above his head shattered with a wave of his hand. It turned into a rain of blood, mixing with the downpour, staining the entire forest red. "Leave, all of you." Su Zimo waved his hand slightly. "Let me enjoy this tranquil rain." Enlightened Sage stood silently for a moment, as if he wanted to say something, but eventually said nothing. Yushan took his arm, and the two left together. The rain in the sky poured down even harder. Su Zimo leaned against the tree, half lying down, eyes closed, resting. In the distance, a horse-drawn carriage raced down the road, hoofs pounding frantically. Amid the storm, over a dozen warhorses surrounded the carriage. Each one had a soldier in armor mounted on it. The coachman was an old man in a green robe, with eyes like an eagle, sharp and gloomy. "There's a smell of blood," the old man muttered. Everyone tensed up and quickly stopped the carriage. "There was a big battle here." The old man surveyed the surroundings and said calmly, "Check the area. Make sure it's clear before we continue." "Uncle Chung." A young woman's voice called from inside the carriage. "Yes, miss?" The old man replied quickly. "Won't stopping waste time? Someone still chasing us?" The girl said, clearly worried. "Don't worry, Mississippi. We're safe now that we've entered the Dragon Ridge Mountains," the old man said with a smile. "There are many paths through this mountain range. It's hard to track anyone, especially with this rain covering our trail." "That's good," the woman replied. Then she gently pulled back the curtain at the front of the carriage. Inside sat 2 women. The one on the left looked like a maid based on her clothing. The woman on the right wore a long green dress, her black hair draped like silk. Her face was thin, with strands of damp hair sticking to her right cheek, adding a unique charm. "Miss, it's raining. Please stay inside the carriage," the old man said quickly. "It's fine. Little Lien and I just wanted some fresh air." The woman smiled. The maid, Little Lien, had a light blue spirit shield around her, keeping all the rain off. But the green-dressed woman used no protection and let the rain fall freely on her. "Miss you?" Little Lien looked worried but didn't finish her sentence. "I like the rain," the woman said gently. As they spoke, a guard shouted from nearby, "Steward Chung, there's someone here." The group quickly moved to check. Under a tree, they found a young man lying peacefully. Despite the heavy rain pouring around him, not a single drop touched his body. "What's with this guy?" Little Lien asked in confusion. "There was a battle here. He's likely involved," Uncle Chung said seriously. "Let's not meddle. We should move on." "But if we leave him and he dies, won't that be wrong?" The green-dressed woman frowned. "We don't even know if he's alive or dead." A guard tried to check his breathing, but before he got close, the young man opened his eyes. "Pouring rain, yet someone still comes out here?" Su Zimo said with interest. "Who are you?" a nearby guard asked cautiously. "Just a traveler," Su Zimo smiled. He glanced at the carriage and asked, "Where are you headed? Mind giving me a ride?" "Sorry, that's not convenient," Uncle Chung replied coldly. "Poor guy like me, walking through a dangerous mountain alone in a storm. So pitiful." Su Zimo sighed dramatically. The green-dressed woman hesitated for a moment, then looked up and said, "If you don't mind, you can travel with our caravan. We're heading to the Nine Lands region." "Miss, are you sure?" Uncle Chung asked, concerned. "We met by chance. If we can help someone, we should," the woman said kindly. "But we don't know his background. It could be dangerous," Uncle Chung said. "Someone who looks this handsome must be a good guy, right?" Su Zimo joked. "If you're not afraid to die, then come," Uncle Chung said coldly and turned away. "Give him a horse," the young woman instructed one of the guards. "No need. I have my own ride." Su Zimo smiled. With a wave of his hand, the dark sky tiger burst out of his storage ring and stopped beside him. The moment the beast appeared, all the other horses panicked, pulling at their reins nervously. Not until the tiger gave a loud roar did they calm down. What is that?" a guard stammered, staring at the beast. Uncle Chung narrowed his eyes and stared at the dark sky tiger for a long time before silently lowering his head, deep in thought. "Just lead the way," Su Zimo said casually. He wasn't familiar with the geography of the Dragon Ridge Mountains. Traveling alone through the range to reach Nine Lands was risky. Joining this caravan made things easier. Among the group, Su Zimo judged that the strongest was the old man, Uncle Chung, who was only in the Paragon Meridian realm, not even a match for the dark sky tiger. The rain didn't ease up, kept pouring steady and heavy. The group walked on the muddy ground and soon left the forest. Ahead, they came upon a fork with a dozen narrow paths. The guards checked their directions, and the carriage continued along the path heading north. The sky slowly began to darken. Chapter 577, Kai Yu. As the caravan passed through a valley, it slowly came to a stop. "Miss, it's getting late. There are many unknown dangers in the Dragon Ridge Mountains. Why don't we camp here for the night?" Uncle Chung asked. "All right, I'll leave it to you to decide," said the woman in the green dress inside the carriage. The group found a relatively open spot and began setting up camp. Some guards cleaned the beasts they had killed earlier and started a fire to cook dinner. Su Zimo lay on the back of the dark sky tiger. He hadn't closed his eyes all day, instead using the time to practice his heaven-shattering God scripture inside the God world. Since crossing the Dragon Ridge Mountains wasn't going to be quick, he decided to make good use of the time. Before long, the rich smell of cooked meat filled the air. Two guards brought a bowl of meat soup to the woman in the green dress first. She looked at the soup silently for a moment, then walked over to Su Zimo. "Here, this is for you." Su Zimo slowly opened his eyes, glanced at the soup, and smiled. "Aren't you afraid I'm a bad person?" "I want to ask you for a favor," the woman said, squatting down slightly and looking at him with a pleading gaze. "In that case, I better not drink this soup," Su Zimo chuckled. "My name is Kai Yu," she introduced herself. "To be honest, I let you join us and gave you soup because my instincts told me you're not ordinary." "And?" Su Zimo asked. "Our Kai clan was once the most respected in the West Gold Prefecture. A year ago, my father obtained a breaking-through pill. As the name suggests, it's a pill that helps a cultivator open their sixth meridian gate and break through to the Imperial Meridian realm." Kai spoke seriously. "After getting the pill, our family was dragged into a conflict. Eventually, 6 months ago, the entire family was wiped out. Luckily, my father hid the pill ahead of time. I was captured and tortured for its location. Just a few days ago, my father's loyal steward, Uncle Fu, rescued me. Now we're fleeing and heading to the Nine Lands region." "You're already out. Why tell me all this?" Su Zimo asked. "Because I suspect Uncle Fu. I think he's the one who betrayed my father and leaked the news about the pill," she replied. "I don't know who else to trust. If he's innocent, great. But if it's really him, I hope you'll help escort me to Nine Lands. I'm willing to give the pill to you." "You'd rather give it to me than them?" Su Zimo asked with a grin. They're my enemies, Caillou said calmly. I'm not really interested in the pill, and I don't care about killing your enemies. But if I'm in the mood, I might help, said Su Zimo. What do you want, then? Caillou asked. Well, in this heavy rain, shouldn't you at least invite me into your carriage to stay dry? Su Zimo smiled. You're welcome to join me, if you want, Caillou replied directly. Just then, Uncle Fu noticed them talking and quickly came over. Miss, best to stay away from strangers like him, he said. Thank you, Uncle Fu. Caillou smiled and glanced at Su Zimo, then walked back to her carriage. Kid, don't say I didn't warn you, Uncle Fu said coldly. We're being hunted. If you don't want to die, leave. What a coincidence. I love being in the middle of the action, Su Zimo replied, smiling. Uncle Fu glared at him and left without another word. A young guard walked over to Su Zimo and threatened him. You better stay away from Our Lady, or I won't be polite. Got a crush? Su Zimo teased. None of your business. Just keep your distance, the young man snapped. Well, I've eaten and drank enough. Time to sleep, Su Zimo said casually. He set down his bowl and walked toward the carriage. What are you doing? The guard shouted, stepping in front of him with Uncle Fu. Let him in. Caillou's voice came from inside the carriage. Miss, this is not proper. We don't even know where he's from, one of the guards protested. I said let him in. That's final, Caillou said calmly. Uncle Fu. The guards looked to him. Caillou was young and beautiful, the dream girl of every man in the group. They naturally didn't want to see this happen. You didn't hear the lady? Uncle Fu said coldly after a pause. Step aside. The guards had no choice but to watch as Su Zimo entered the carriage. The inside of the carriage was decorated in light red. The maid little Lien had to leave. There was a faint fragrance in the air, and the space was surprisingly roomy. A table with a few teapots sat at the front, and there was a resting area in the back. If you need anything, just ask, Caillou said. Tomorrow I'll pretend to go retrieve the pill. Then we'll know the truth, Su Zimo replied. And don't get the wrong idea. I'm just sleeping, he said as he lay down on the bed, yawned, and added, Wake me up when we arrive. The guards camped outside through the night. At dawn, the rain had lessened. Though it was still misty and gray, the caravan resumed their journey. When they passed a shallow valley, Caillou suddenly stopped the carriage. Uncle Fu, I need to go fetch something. Wait here for me, she said softly. Miss, it's dangerous to go alone. Let me come with you, Uncle Fu offered. No need. I'll be quick. She smiled and shook her head. Though not strong, Caillou had some cultivation. She moved quickly into the valley. Soon after, she returned, looking anxious. Did you find what you needed, miss? Uncle Fu asked. She nodded. Let's leave quickly. I heard the family head once had a breaking through pill. Do you remember that, miss? Uncle Fu asked with a smile. Never heard of it, Caillou replied calmly. Then what did you just go get? Uncle Fu continued, smiling oddly. You seem very interested in this, Caillou said, frowning. No, not at all. It's just that keeping something like that on you isn't safe. Maybe I should hold it for you, Uncle Fu said, his smile turning sinister. Chapter 578, Leaving Dragon Ridge. Uncle Fu, let's not play games. I know I can't run now, Caillou said calmly. Tell me the truth. Did you betray the Kai clan? What if I did? What if I didn't? Uncle Fu replied indifferently. I just want to know before I die, so I don't die confused, Caillou said. Yes, it was me. I leaked the news. I secretly teamed up with a few other clans to wipe out the Kai clan. They only wanted to take over the West Gold Prefecture. We all got what we wanted, Uncle Fu replied. But why? My father and my family treated you well, didn't they? Caillou asked, shocked. You watched me grow up. Instead of saying the Kai clan treated me well, it's more like I treated the Kai clan well, Uncle Fu said coldly. I followed your father even before he became head of the family. I helped him run the household, supported him without complaint. but I've been stuck at the peak of the Paragon Meridian realm for a long time. I'm not some genius. I couldn't break through. My lifespan is almost up. I don't want to die. When your father got the breaking through pill, he hid it instead of helping me use it to break through to the Imperial Meridian realm and extend my life. So if anyone betrayed anyone, your Kai clan betrayed me first. I don't know what my father was thinking, but people like you deserve to die, Caillou said flatly. Whether I deserve to die or not doesn't matter. What's certain is you'll die before me. Once I get the pill and reach the Imperial Meridian realm, the whole world will be mine, Uncle Fu said with a cruel smile. What about you guys? Caillou turned to the other guards. Miss, we didn't know anything, the guards said nervously, shaking their heads. No need to be afraid, Uncle Fu said. After you die, they'll be buried with you. At least you won't be alone on the road. A powerful pressure surged from Uncle Fu, revealing his peak Paragon Meridian realm strength. He formed claw-like hands, pale white energy gathering between his fingers, and lunged at Caillou. Just then, a loud beastly roar came from nearby. The dark sky tiger pounced, its massive body rushing in. Feeling the pressure from the tiger's aura, Uncle Fu's expression changed and he shouted, Beast! He quickly dodged to the side. Although Su Zimo hadn't officially trained the dark sky tiger as a battle pet, it had grown under his care into an Imperial Meridian realm beast. His combat strength was formidable. You're ruining everything, Uncle Fu shouted at Su Zimo, who was still in the carriage. I didn't want to kill you, but you're asking for it. Why all the noise? Can't even nap in peace, Su Zimo said, pulling open the carriage curtain. Annoyed, Uncle Fu glared at him, then suddenly pulled out a jet-black pill. Mad demon pill, Caillou exclaimed. You forced me to this? Uncle Fu laughed madly and swallowed the pill. His face twisted, his skin darkened, and his strength rapidly increased. He just used the mad demon pill, Caillou said anxiously. It'll push him temporarily into the Imperial Meridian realm. He won't feel pain and his power will skyrocket. Imperial Meridian? Just an ant, Su Zimo replied casually. The dark sky tiger pounced again, turning into a blur of black light and opening its jaws wide. Uncle Fu roared and fought back, his body radiating dark energy. At equal cultivation levels, humans are no match for beasts, unless they're top-tier talents. However, the pill made Uncle Fu numb to pain, giving him an advantage. The fight was intense, blow for blow. Uncle Fu began to worry he was on a time limit. Once the pill wore off, he'd suffer a massive backlash and temporarily lose all cultivation. With a cold expression, he suddenly switched targets and lunged toward Caillou. Her face turned pale. Though she wanted to run, her legs felt rooted to the ground, heavy as lead. Just as Uncle Fu's claws were about to grab her neck, clang! A curved blade blocked the strike. You again, Uncle Fu roared at Su Zimo. I was so close. The dark sky tiger leapt from behind, pinned him down with its claws, and bit down on his head. The others turned away, unable to watch the bloody scene. Caillou sighed. He had watched her grow up. He had once been like family. Here, she said, handing a small black box to Su Zimo. I promised you the breaking through pill. Keep it for yourself, Su Zimo said, shaking his head. He returned to the carriage. Let's keep moving. Call me when we reach the border of the Nine Lands region. The dark sky tiger, satisfied after eating, followed behind the caravan. Su Zimo didn't put it away. It was fine to let it roam for now. The rain, which had started in the early morning, finally began to clear. Raindrops clung to the plants, glistening on the leaves. The caravan slowly moved forward. Crossing the Dragon Ridge Mountains would take a long time, so whenever they encountered beasts, the guards killed them for supplies. Su Zimo remained in the carriage, either asleep or, more accurately, cultivating. The human body has over 360 acupuncture points, each capable of forming multiple power vortexes. According to the heaven-shattering God scripture, the human body has endless potential. In theory, it can generate infinite power vortexes. With enough time, energy, and resources, strength has no limit. The weak can move mountains. The strong can split the heavens. But forming vortexes becomes harder over time. Suzumo was focusing on sensing the power in every part of his body, every muscle, every nerve. Understanding power takes time. You must reach a deep level of control. You should be able to spread power out like stars in the sky, or focus it into a single devastating strike. Only when you can sense and control all the power in your body naturally can you say you've entered the path. That was the beginning of the heaven-shattering God Scripture. Not necessarily difficult, but incredibly time-consuming and precise. And so, the carriage slowly traveled through the mountains. Chapter 579, Mountain Temple. The carriage had traveled through the forest for a month and a half. The Dragon Ridge Mountains, although old, wasn't considered a major range. People often crossed it on their way from Skiluan region to the Ninelands region. There weren't many powerful beasts inside, and so, one morning after the long journey, a gentle spring breeze blew, the sky was clear and sunny, and the wind softly rustled around them. The group had finally reached the far end of the Dragon Ridge Mountains. Young Master Su were almost at the Ninelands region. Caillou softly woke Suzumo and said, "Once we get over that mountain ahead, we'll reach Black Demon City. That city is within Ninelands." That was fast. Suzumo stretched and looked at the skyline in the distance. The mountain ahead was pure white. But unlike snowy mountains, this white looked more like floating clouds, light and ethereal. The mountaintop was shrouded in mist. Among all the peaks in Dragon Ridge, this one stood out and felt special. In the month and a half of training, Suzumo had only mastered about half of his body's strength. Even though he was already at the peak of the Divine Vein Realm, he found the heaven-shattering God Scripture to give him a much deeper control over power. This changed how he viewed the so-called 10 primordial God Scriptures. Once he mastered his entire body's power, he planned to begin forming power vortexes. Due to the steep slope, the group left the carriage at the base and prepared to climb on foot. Caillou chose to climb with everyone else. "Young Master Su, we want to cross this peak before nightfall and rest in Black Demon City," Caillou said to him. "All right, let's move faster." Suzumo nodded. At the mountain's base, they found a staircase made of white jade. It wound upward all the way to the peak. Each step was built from solid jade and had clearly aged. Some were cracked, and fallen flower petals had been crushed into smudges. At the base of the stairs was a square white jade incense altar. It held thick ashes and gave off a faint pleasant scent. Carved into the altar were the words, "Black Demon Temple Merit Altar." "There's a temple up there?" Suzumo looked at Caillou and asked. He had never been to the Skiluan region before and didn't know much about it. "I don't know either. My father brought me to Ninelands when I was little, but I was too young to remember much," Caillou said, shaking her head. "I'm not familiar with Ninelands either." "Then let's go take a look. We have to pass it anyway," Suzumo said. He didn't count the number of steps, but the staircase stretched all the way to the peak. Because of the steep terrain, the stairs helped a lot. As they climbed, Suzumo noticed many stone statues on either side of the stairs. But they weren't the typical figures seen in Taoist temples, not saints or ancestral masters. They were statues of demons, ugly and menacing. The group climbed the stairs all day. By afternoon, they finally reached the top of the mountain. Climb the icy path to the east. Sunset fires blaze to the west. Heaven is just one step away, while the mortal world lies 10,000 years below. As they reached the summit, someone nearby softly recited that verse. Suzumo looked over and saw a young boy in Taoist robes walking toward them, struggling to carry a large bundle of firewood. He wiped his sweat and approached the group with a smile. "Are you fellow cultivators here to visit the Black Demon Temple?" he asked. "We're headed to Ninelands, just passing by," Suzumo replied. "If you have time, you're welcome to visit our temple," the boy said. "Our master always teaches us to make friends with people from all walks of life." "Sure," Suzumo smiled. He turned to Caillou and the others. "What about you? Want to check out the temple or keep heading to the city? Little Taoist, is Black Demon City related to your temple? Caillou asked curiously. Long ago, black demons caused chaos in this land, the boy explained. Our founding master renamed this temple Black Demon Temple, to show we'd fight the demons to the end. After many years, we finally defeated the demons. To thank us, the people named the city after our temple, Black Demon City. So that's the story, Caillou nodded. All right, I'll go take a look too. Please follow me. The boy smiled and lifted the bundle of firewood again, leading the way. Su Zimo could tell the boy was an ordinary person with no cultivation. Otherwise, carrying such a small load wouldn't have been so hard. The mountaintop was quite spacious. After walking for over 10 minutes, the group saw the temple. It was large, taking up half the mountain, but appeared old and a bit run down. 2 lush Bodhi trees stood on either side of the gate. The red outer walls were faded but still intact, showing their age. The main gate was black and white, newly renovated and imposing. Please come in, the boy said as he pushed open the temple doors politely. Su Zimo and the group followed inside. The temple stretched far, with no end in sight. Inside were many smaller temples lined up, and the place felt empty. A temple this size should have been bustling, but there was no trace of spirit force. It felt like an ordinary mortal temple. Not many people come here, do they? Caillou asked. No, the boy admitted. Our temple actually doesn't allow outsiders. I've never left the mountain. I was just curious about the outside world, so I secretly brought you in. That's not really okay, is it? Caillou said to Su Zimo. If your temple doesn't welcome outsiders, maybe we should go. Please don't, the boy begged. Can't you tell me some stories about the outside world? Oh, and our temple's founder is really powerful. He almost always grants wishes. If you offer prayers, your future will definitely be smooth. Su Zimo looked around. This peaceful and ordinary temple gave him an odd feeling, like something was brewing beneath the calm, like a storm about to break. Come on, hurry inside. If someone finds out I brought you, I'll be in big trouble, the boy urged. Chapter 580, The Strange Taoist Temple. Su Zimo looked at Caillou, then finally decided to walk inside. Though their group was large and eye-catching, they didn't encounter a single person as they passed through the temple. The place was just too remote. Our temple has 11 people in total, including Master, the young boy explained. I have 9 senior brothers. Since I can remember, we've always lived here and never left the mountain. Su Zimo nodded. Along the way, he noticed the temple grounds were planted with crops and vegetables. It really did feel like an ordinary mortal village. The boy led them to an old courtyard that was sealed off. There were spider webs at the door, showing it hadn't been used in a long time. A crooked sign hung above the entrance with the faded words, Hall of Far Guests. To have friends visit from afar, is that not a joy? Su Zimo murmured softly. My senior brothers said this place used to host visiting cultivators. But ever since I can remember, it's been closed, the boy said. Oh right, you can call me Mr. Deepfeather. That's the Taoist name Master gave me. Mr. Deepfeather is too formal. Calling you Little Mister feels more natural. Are you asking us to clean this place up for you? Caillou joked. No, the inside is clean. I sweep it regularly, Deepfeather quickly explained. I just don't dare clean the outside because I'm afraid Master would notice. Sorry for the inconvenience. It's fine. Su Zimo waved it off. By the way, what's your Master's Taoist title? His title is Universe. You can call him Master Universe, Deepfeather answered. But you probably won't see him. Can you tell me stories about the outside world later tonight? Su Zimo didn't refuse and nodded, then walked into a side room in the courtyard. Unlike the gloomy exterior, the inside was quite well kept. There was a wooden bed, a table, a mirror, and other traditional Taoist items. You all get settled. I'll head out now, Deepfeather said. After he left, Caillou asked, confused, why did you insist on coming here? Curiosity, Su Zimo replied. What's there to be curious about in this place? She asked. I'm not sure yet, but this temple definitely isn't normal, Su Zimo said. Let's just stay one night. We'll head to the city tomorrow, Caillou said. Su Zimo nodded, tidied up the room a bit, and sat down to cultivate. His training in the art of strength was only halfway. He sat cross-legged, relaxed his body, and began calmly sensing the natural force within him. He stayed in this state until evening. When Deep Feather brought over dinner, Su Zimo finally snapped out of his focus. The meal was simple: a bowl of rice, some vegetables, and a bowl of thick soup. You may not be used to it, but please bear with it, Deep Feather said with a smile. Have you ever trained in cultivation? Su Zimo asked. I wanted to, but everyone in our temple was born with blocked meridians. We can't open our meridian gates, Deep Feather explained with a smile. But after so many years, we've gotten used to it. Living as a normal person isn't so bad. Mind if I take a look? Su Zimo asked with a smile. Sure, Deep Feather nodded. Su Zimo gently placed his hand on Deep Feather's right wrist, the location of the first meridian gate, spring wheel. He closed his eyes to examine Deep Feather's inner condition. After a while, Su Zimo opened his eyes and gave Deep Feather a strange look. Who told you your meridians were blocked? He asked. My master, Deep Feather replied. Is that not the case? Su Zimo just smiled and nodded without saying more. Deep Feather's meridians weren't blocked. They were sealed. And inside his body, Su Zimo sensed a powerful energy. But that energy, along with his meridians, was sealed, leaving him unable to absorb any spirit force, making him live as a mortal. After dinner, Deep Feather stayed to hear some stories. He seemed fascinated by the outside world. Su Zimo let Caillou do the storytelling while he went back to cultivating. Deep Feather was amazed by the simplest stories, clearly unaware of the outside world. Late that night, 3 chimes rang out from the temple bell. Deep Feather yawned repeatedly and said to Caillou, Sister Yu, it's bedtime. I need to go to sleep. Go on, Caillou nodded. After a short farewell, Deep Feather left. Right when the bell finished ringing, Su Zimo sensed an intense surge of spirit force, as if all the spirit power from the mountain was gathering like a storm around them. Su Zimo was stunned. He looked out the window and saw the sky glowing brilliantly. 2 lights, one black and one white, twisted through the air. The entire temple was now covered by a black and white barrier. What's going on? Su Zimo muttered, puzzled. Before he could think more, a sudden knock came at the door. Caillou got up and opened it. Little mister, you came back already? She said with a smile. Suddenly a low growl rang out, followed by Caillou's startled scream. Su Zimo rushed out of his room and saw Deep Feather in the courtyard, lifting Caillou off the ground, trying to kill her. Powerful spirit force surged around him, likely at the Paragon Meridian realm. Su Zimo immediately released the pressure of his own God Meridian realm, pinning Deep Feather in place. He rescued Caillou, who was trembling and unable to speak, pointing at Deep Feather in shock. Su Zimo looked over. Deep Feather's eyes were now blood-red, and the seal inside him had somehow been undone. He seemed to have lost his mind, like a walking corpse struggling blindly. How did he become like this? Caillou asked, terrified. I don't know, Su Zimo said. He subdued Deep Feather, tied him up with the immortal suppression chain, and locked him in the room. He turned to Caillou, saying, Find somewhere to hide and keep an eye on him. I'm going to check the rest of the temple. Be careful, she said quickly. When Su Zimo stepped out of the room, he saw the once quiet temple now filled with strange low growls. He looked around and saw several others in Taoist robes, also mindless like Deep Feather, running toward the temple entrance. They tried to escape but were all blocked by the barrier around the temple. The barrier had some strange effect, like sunlight melting snow in early spring.